Listen, chosen ones. The veil between heaven and earth is thinner than you think. The unseen realm is closer than your mind can comprehend. The four angels have been watching, waiting, and preparing for this moment. This is not a call given by chance, nor were you born into this time without purpose. You have felt it, the pull, the weight, the knowing that you are different, that you are set apart, that your soul does not align with the patterns of this world. You have questioned why your journey has been so intense. You have wondered why people misunderstand you, why suffering has followed you like a shadow, why you see things others do not. The answer is simple. You were chosen before the foundation of the world to walk a path only a few can carry. You have been trained in the fire, refined through trials, and prepared for an hour such as this. Now heaven has sent them, the four angels. They do not come with empty words, but with divine revelation. Secrets that will unlock the doors that have remained closed in your understanding. Words that will shake your spirit awake and call forth the destiny that has been waiting for you to step into it. But be warned, these words are not for the faint-hearted. They are not for those who cling to the comfort of the crowd. They are for you, the 144,000, the remnant, the ones who know in their bones that they were made for more. The four angels have arrived, and they bring four messages. Each one is a revelation. Each one is an awakening. Each one is a call to rise. Message 1. Look into your life. The first angel descends, his presence shaking the very fabric of reality. His voice thunders through the heavens, cutting through every illusion, every falsehood, every deception that has kept you bound. His words are not gentle. They are a sword, dividing truth from lies, awakening you from the slumber of this world. The world has lied to you. From the moment you opened your eyes to this world, you were conditioned to believe in a life that was never meant for you. You were handed a script, told how to think, how to behave, how to measure your worth. The systems of men whispered their illusions into your ears, false hopes, empty pursuits, meaningless struggles disguised as purpose. They led you down paths that were never yours, convincing you to spend your days chasing after things that do not matter. They told you that success was the goal, that wealth would bring you peace, that recognition would fill the void inside you. But what have these things truly given you? Do you not see the deception? The endless pursuit of things that never satisfy? The hunger that remains no matter how much you consume? You have been trained to exhaust yourself in a race that leads to nowhere, striving for approval from those who do not even see you, working tirelessly for rewards that turn to dust in your hands. Now look into your life. Strip away the distractions, silence the noise, let go of every expectation, every false belief, every empty promise that has kept you bound. What remains? Chosen one, you were never meant to fit into this world. That restless feeling inside of you, the sense that something is missing, that you do not belong, that no matter what you do, you cannot seem to find peace. It is not a curse. It is a sign. The reason you feel disconnected is because your spirit was never designed to be trapped by the lies of men. You have always known deep down that something was off, that the way the world works does not feel right, that the things people chase after do not truly matter. You have sensed the illusion, even if you could not fully name it. The world told you to chase success, but success was a cage. The world told you to seek validation, but validation was a leash. The world told you to follow their path, but their path led to emptiness. Do you see it now? You were never meant to bow to a broken system. You were never meant to be controlled by the opinions of the blind. You were never meant to trade your divine calling for temporary pleasures that drain your soul. That is why you feel like an outsider. That is why you have never truly fit in. That is why the things that satisfy others leave you feeling empty, because you were set apart from the beginning. But knowing this is not enough. You must act. To awaken fully, you must be willing to let go of the illusions that still grip you. Every lie you hold on to will keep you bound. Every false belief you refuse to release will keep you asleep. This is your moment of reckoning. What are you holding on to that no longer serves you? What habits, relationships, and mindsets have been keeping you asleep? Look deeply. Be honest with yourself. The truth is waiting for you, but it cannot be received by those who still cling to deception. Heaven is waiting for your answer. You must decide. Will you remain entangled in the falsehoods of this world, or will you awaken to the truth? The first revelation has been given. Now, you must act. Message 2. Stand apart. The second angel descends, and the very air trembles beneath the weight of his words. His presence is overwhelming, his voice like fire that burns away every doubt, every insecurity, every lingering desire to belong where you were never meant to fit in. Do you not see? The world does not love you because it was never meant to. You have felt it, haven't you? The rejection, the isolation, the loneliness, the misunderstanding. You have carried the weight of being different, of walking a path that few understand. You have wondered why you never truly fit in, why people look at you with suspicion, why they mock you, exclude you, push you to the side. But listen carefully, chosen one. It was never random. The world cannot recognize you because your spirit does not belong to it. The moment you stepped into your divine identity, you became unrecognizable to those who are still bound by the illusions of this world. They sense what you are, even if they do not understand it. You are marked for something higher, and the darkness knows it. The enemy has seen your light from the moment you were born. He has watched you, knowing that you were dangerous to his kingdom. That is why you have been attacked. That is why you have been slandered. That is why people have turned against you, even when you did nothing to deserve it. You have walked alone not because you were forgotten, but because you were chosen. But listen, chosen one. Your loneliness was preparation. Every rejection, every betrayal, every moment of isolation was not a punishment. It was refinement. The fire you endured was stripping away every false dependency, every need for human approval, every desire to conform. You were not meant to live for the acceptance of men. You were meant to stand before God. The world has tried to make you feel like an outcast, like you were unworthy, like there was something wrong with you. But they were afraid of you. They feared your light. They feared the way you carried truth. They feared the way you walked into a room and shifted the atmosphere without saying a word. They saw something in you that you had not yet seen in yourself. And so they tried to silence you, to make you doubt yourself, to make you question whether you truly had a place. But the time for apologizing is over. The time for shrinking yourself to make others comfortable is over. The time for dimming your light is over. You were never sent here to be liked. You were sent here to disrupt. So stand apart. Let them talk. Let them misunderstand. Let them stare. Their opinions do not matter. You have spent too long trying to explain yourself to those who will never understand you. You have exhausted yourself seeking acceptance from people who were never meant to see you. You have questioned yourself when you should have been standing boldly in who you are. Enough. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to be set apart. This is not a punishment. This is your calling. The world does not reject its own. It rejects those who do not belong to it. And you, chosen one, were never meant to belong. So stop trying. Stop doubting. Stop questioning whether you should change yourself to fit into a world that was never designed for you. You were chosen. You were called. You were sent. The second revelation has been given. Now, you must embrace it. Message 3. Obey without delay. The third angel descends, and the atmosphere shifts. His presence is heavy, filled with urgency. The heavens tremble as his voice cuts through the hesitation that has kept you bound. There is no softness in his tone, no room for doubt, only a command that pierces your soul like lightning. Enough waiting, enough second-guessing, enough asking for another sign. You already know what you are meant to do. Now do it. How long have you waited, chosen one? How many nights have you spent wondering if you are truly called? How many signs have you received only to question them the next day? You have felt the pull, You have heard the whispers. You have seen the signs written in your circumstances, in your dreams, in the depths of your spirit. And yet, you hesitate. You wonder if you are ready. You question if you have what it takes. You tell yourself that you need more clarity, more confirmation, more proof before you move. But hear this now. Delay is the enemy's greatest weapon against you. Every moment you wait, doubt takes root. Every moment you hesitate, fear gains power. Every moment you stay still, doors close that were meant to be yours. You think you are being careful, that you are waiting for the perfect moment. But there will never be a perfect moment. The enemy wants you trapped in hesitation, paralyzed by uncertainty, waiting for a sign that has already been given. Yes, the road ahead is uncertain. Yes, stepping into the unknown is terrifying. But listen, your obedience will unlock miracles. You have prayed for answers, for direction, for breakthrough. But what if the answer has already been given? What if the miracle you seek will not come in the way you expect, but through your movement, through your faith, through your willingness to act, even when you do not see the whole picture? The provision you need will not come before you move. It will meet you on the road of obedience. Do you understand? You must step first, then the path will unfold. Abraham did not see the promised land before he left his home. Moses did not see the Red Sea part before he lifted his staff. Peter did not see the water hold him before he stepped out of the boat. Faith has always required movement. You cannot wait until you feel ready, because you will never feel ready. Readiness is a lie that keeps you stagnant. Those who are called never feel fully prepared, but they move anyway. This is your moment. This is your turning point. The choice is before you. Will you let fear dictate your future? Will you allow hesitation to rob you of your calling? Or will you rise in faith, step forward, and trust that heaven will meet you where you go? The third revelation has been given. Now you must step forward. Message 4. Speak the truth. The fourth angel descends and fire pours from his lips. His presence ignites the air, his voice carrying the weight of eternity. The heavens seem to tremble as he speaks, and the earth itself responds to the power of his words. Your voice will shake the earth. You were not given eyes to see just for yourself. You were not given wisdom to keep silent. You were not given truth to keep it locked inside your heart. You were given sight so you could speak. You were given wisdom so you could reveal. You were given truth so you could declare it to the world. Now, open your mouth, chosen one. For too long, the enemy has tried to silence you. He has whispered lies into your mind, telling you that your words do not matter, that no one will listen, that no one will care, that your voice is too small, too insignificant, too powerless to make a difference. But listen to the truth now. Your voice was anointed before you were born. Before you took your first breath, heaven placed a calling upon you. Your words were destined to break chains. Your testimony was meant to set captives free. Your voice was never meant to be small. It was meant to echo across the earth, to awaken the sleeping, to call forth the chosen, to declare that the kingdom of heaven is near. And yet, you have held back. You have hesitated. You have questioned yourself. You have wondered if you should remain silent, if you should keep the truth to yourself, if you should wait for a time when it feels safer to speak. But there will never be a safer time. Do not whisper when you were meant to roar. Do not hide when you were meant to stand. You do not speak to please. You do not speak to be accepted. You speak to break chains. You speak to awaken. You speak because you were sent. The world is drowning in deception, and the enemy has worked tirelessly to keep the truth suppressed. If you do not speak, who will? If you do not rise, who will take your place? This is not just about you. There are people waiting for the words that only you can speak. There are souls in darkness who will never find the light unless you are bold enough to shine it. There are captives whose chains will never be broken unless you open your mouth and declare the truth. Heaven has given you a voice, and now heaven is commanding you to use it. The fourth revelation has been given. Now you must proclaim it. These messages have been delivered, and you have heard them. The words have stirred something deep within you, awakening what has long been dormant. But now, you must decide. To delay is to deny. To hesitate is to surrender ground to the enemy. You would not be drawn to these words if you were not meant to hear them. You would not feel this stirring in your soul if you were not part of something greater. This is your confirmation. This is your call. This is your moment. The time for waiting is over. The time for questioning is done. Heaven has spoken, and heaven is waiting for your response. Will you shrink back, or will you step forward? Will you remain in doubt, or will you rise in faith? Will you stay silent, or will you speak the truth that was placed inside of you? The four angels have spoken. The path has been revealed. The choice is yours. Now, chosen one, will you rise? Amen and amen. If these words have ignited something in your spirit, if you feel the call to step into your purpose, do not keep this message to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe to this channel so that more chosen ones can awaken. Leave a comment below and declare, I will rise. Together, we will shake the earth. The time is now. Listen closely. This is not another empty motivation speech. This is your final message before the shift. The world around you is not as it seems, and the forces working against you are not what you've been told. They have lied to you, manipulated you, and spent years poisoning your mind, not because you are weak, but because you are strong beyond measure. They fear what they cannot control, and you, chosen one, are the one thing they have never been able to control. The wolves do not chase the weak, they hunt the strongest. They whisper doubts into your mind, turn your loved ones against you, place obstacles in your path, and make you question your very purpose. Why? Because they know exactly what it is. This is the war for your awakening. This war is not fought with swords, but with distractions, deception, and control over your energy. Every time you hesitate, every time you doubt yourself, every time you let fear stop you, they win. But the moment a chosen one realizes who they are, the enemy loses all power. So I ask you, are you ready to wake up, or will you remain trapped in their illusion? Because once you see the truth, there is no going back. The greatest deception ever orchestrated was not one of war, politics, or power. It was the lie that the chosen ones were powerless. It was a carefully woven illusion, designed not to defeat you outright, but to keep you blind to what has always been inside you. They knew who you were before you even had a clue, before you ever questioned why life felt different, why you never truly fit in, why betrayals cut deeper than they should. They had already seen you. They recognized the force within you, the kind of power that cannot be bought, imitated, or stolen, and that terrified them. So, they struck early. They placed roadblocks before you could even take your first step. They whispered doubts before you could even form words of confidence. They surrounded you with people who could not see your light, people who doubted you, envied you, and subtly sought to diminish your worth. Every hardship, every moment of self-doubt, every betrayal, it was never just misfortune. It was intentional. The system was never built to nurture the chosen ones. It was built to suppress them before they could awaken. Look at history, and the pattern becomes undeniable. The greatest souls were marked before they ever knew their own destiny. Jesus was hunted before he could even speak. Moses was abandoned before he could walk. Malcolm X was targeted before he could rise. Every chosen one who has ever existed has faced the same script: opposition before realization, isolation before leadership, trials before transformation, because the enemy never waits. They do not strike when you are strong. They come when you are vulnerable, young, and unaware. They do not need to stop a warrior in full power. They only need to make sure you never realize you are one. And yet, despite everything they threw at you, you are still here. Despite the countless moments designed to break you, you have not only survived, but have begun to see through the illusion. The very thing they feared most is happening. You are awakening. And the moment you fully recognize who you are, they lose all control. A lion does not ask for permission to roar, just as a chosen one does not need validation to rise. From the moment you entered this world, you carried something rare, something unexplainable, a power that cannot be taught, borrowed, or imitated. It was placed inside you before birth, woven into your very existence. Yet, from the beginning, the world has worked tirelessly to convince you that you are ordinary. They told you to stay in line, to follow the rules, to suppress the fire inside you. They conditioned you to seek approval, to look to others for validation, to believe that your worth depended on their recognition. But deep down, you have always known the truth. Even in your most uncertain moments, even when doubt wrapped itself around you, something inside refused to be extinguished. Because power like yours cannot be destroyed. It can only be forgotten. Have you ever noticed how the most gifted, insightful, and spiritually powerful people are also the ones who face the greatest struggles? The ones whose lives seem like an endless battle? That is not coincidence. It is by design. They cannot allow you to see what you truly are. So, they distract you. They bury you in self-doubt, in toxic relationships, in never-ending hardships. They drain your energy, break your confidence, and exhaust you until you are too tired to fight for your destiny. Think about it. How many times have you questioned yourself, not because you lacked ability, but because the world made you feel like you weren't enough? How many dreams have you abandoned, not because you didn't believe in them, but because someone else convinced you they were unrealistic? This is their strategy, to keep you lost so that you never step fully into your calling. But now, you are beginning to remember. You are waking up, and they can feel it. The very thing they feared most is happening. You are reclaiming what has always been yours, and once a chosen one rises, there is no force in this world that can bring them back down. When they cannot possess the fire, they seek to extinguish it. They have tried everything, stealing from you, imitating you, even tearing you down, but nothing works. No matter how much they analyze you, study your every move, or attempt to replicate what you have, they will never be you. And that drives them insane. So they did the next best thing. They tricked you into giving it away. They whispered doubts into your mind, making you second-guess yourself at every turn. They surrounded you with people who drained your energy, who made you question your worth, who fed you fear instead of faith. They created distractions, endless cycles of struggle, toxic relationships, and betrayals to keep you too exhausted to fight, too weary to recognize your own power. And the worst part? It almost worked. How many times have you hesitated, not because you weren't capable, but because someone else convinced you that you weren't? How many dreams have you abandoned, not because they were impossible, but because the world told you they were? That was their plan all along, to keep you small, to keep you controlled, to keep you from realizing who you were always meant to be. But here is what they never expected. You survived. Despite every obstacle, every betrayal, every moment designed to break you are still here. And now, something inside you is stirring. The illusions they built around you are beginning to crumble. And the moment you reclaim your power, the game changes forever. Because a chosen one who has awakened is a force that cannot be stopped. The greatest wars are not fought with weapons, armies, or battlefields. They are waged in the mind, in the soul, in the quiet spaces where no one is watching. This war does not need to take your life physically. It only needs to break you mentally and spiritually. If they can control your thoughts, they control your choices. If they can weaken your spirit, they don't need chains to keep you bound. And so they attack in silence. They use the people closest to you, the ones you trust, the ones who should have stood by your side. They plant seeds of doubt, turning friends into enemies, family into sources of pain. Not because those people were always against you, but because they were used as weapons without even realizing it. A careless word, an unkind action, a betrayal when you least expect it. These things are not coincidences. They whisper to you through exhaustion, draining your energy with endless struggles, distractions, and unseen battles. They make you feel like no matter how hard you fight, you will never win. They want you to be weary. They want you questioning. They want you to feel too weak to keep going. Every setback, every heartbreak, every moment where you wanted to give up, it was all carefully placed in your path, designed to break your spirit before you could step into your true power. But here is what they never expected. You got back up. Every time they knocked you down, you refused to stay on the ground. Every time they thought they had finally broken you, you kept moving forward. That is what terrifies them the most. Because a chosen one who refuses to give up is unstoppable. A chosen one who sees the war for what it is, who understands that these attacks were never random, but calculated, can never be manipulated again. And once you see the truth, you can never unsee it. The war may be invisible, but you have felt its weight your entire life. Now, you have a choice. Will you continue to let it control you? Or will you rise knowing that your very existence is proof that you were meant to win? The eagle does not fly in flocks. It soars alone, high above the rest, untouched by the noise of the world below. The higher it ascends, the fewer can follow. And so it is with the chosen ones. You have felt it your entire life, the loneliness, the unshakable sense that you don't quite belong, the quiet understanding that you are different. No matter how much you tried to blend in, to be like everyone else, something within you always refused to conform. That is because you were never meant to fit in. The world does not embrace the chosen. It isolates them. It separates them, forces them into solitude, pushes them into battles that must be fought alone. Not as punishment, but as preparation. Because those who are meant to lead cannot afford to be ordinary. They must be unshakable. Think about the people who have come and gone from your life. The friends who faded away, the ones you thought would always be there, only to watch them disappear when you needed them most. At times, it may have felt like rejection, like abandonment, like an unbearable loneliness. But it was never rejection, it was elevation. Not everyone can walk the same path as you. Not everyone is meant to rise to the level you are called to reach. And so, one by one, they fall away. Not because you were not worthy of love or companionship, but because your journey required separation. So I ask you, will you keep mourning those who left? Will you keep looking back, wondering why they couldn't stay, why they didn't understand you, why they chose to walk away? Or will you accept what has always been true? You were never meant to stay where they are. The right people will come. The ones who truly understand you, who match your energy, who carry their own light instead of feeding off yours. But they will not find you in the places you have outgrown. They will meet you at the next level. Until then, embrace solitude. It is not a curse. It is your preparation. It is in the stillness that you are sharpened, in the silence that you hear your true calling, in the isolation that you become the force you were always meant to be. Because when your time comes, when you finally step into your full power, you will no longer crave belonging. You will understand that you were always meant to stand apart. No more waiting. No more hesitating. No more sitting in the shadows, watching the world unfold before you, waiting for the perfect moment to act. The perfect moment does not exist. The right time is not somewhere in the future. It is right now. For too long, you have been searching for a sign, some undeniable proof that you are meant for more. This is your sign. The very fact that you are here, reading these words, feeling this truth resonate within you, is proof that the time for waiting has passed. The world is growing darker. The distractions are becoming more powerful. The forces working against you are no longer subtle. They are relentless, pushing harder than ever to keep you asleep, lost, and uncertain. They want you trapped in hesitation because hesitation is their greatest weapon. Every moment you delay, every time you question yourself, every excuse you make, it gives them more power over you. But you were not sent here to live in fear. You were not chosen to remain small, to play it safe, to wait for someone else to tell you when it's time. Your destiny has always been waiting for you, but you must be the one to claim it. So I ask you again, will you rise, or will you keep waiting for a moment that will never come? Will you keep making excuses, keep doubting, keep hoping that one day everything will feel ready? Because chosen ones do not wait. They move. They step forward even when they are afraid, even when the path is unclear, even when the world tells them to stop. They rise, not because the timing is perfect, but because they refuse to stay asleep any longer. This is the moment. Your moment. What you do next will change everything. Everything you have been through led you here to this moment, to this message, to this choice. You have been tested. You have been betrayed. You have been pushed to the edge time and time again. Yet, you are still here. That alone should tell you something. You were not meant to be broken. You were not meant to stay small. You were meant to rise. No more excuses. No more hesitation. No more waiting for the world to recognize what you already know in your soul. This is your moment of truth, because the world is about to witness the awakening they never saw coming. And the enemy's greatest fear? You finally realize who you were always meant to be. Thank you for being here, for seeking truth, for embracing the path you were meant to walk. This journey is only beginning. Subscribe now and stay connected, because together we rise. The world is changing, and the chosen ones must stand united. Your awakening starts now. They laughed at you. They whispered behind your back. They called you foolish for believing in true love. They watched your loneliness and mocked it, as if being alone meant being unworthy. They thought rejection would crush you, that heartbreak would leave you broken beyond repair. They sneered at your faith, dismissing it as childish, naive, a hopeless dream. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly see, was that while they were laughing, heaven was working. While they ridicule you, God was preparing something beyond their comprehension. Every tear you cried, every lonely night, every silent prayer, it was not for nothing. It was all leading you to a divinely ordained love, one that is deeper, stronger, and more unshakable than anything they have ever known. Your true love is coming, and this time it's different. This love isn't just a fleeting emotion or a temporary infatuation. It is a divine appointment, a love that carries heaven's seal. The very love they said didn't exist for you is already written in the heavens, waiting for its appointed time. So, let them laugh, let them doubt, let them mock. Because when God moves, the laughter will stop. Rejection is one of the deepest wounds a heart can endure. It cuts in ways that words cannot fully capture, leaving behind invisible scars that whisper doubts into your soul. There were moments when you sat in silence, wrestling with questions that seemed to have no answers. God, why? Why does love always seem just out of reach? Why am I always the one left behind? You replayed the scenes in your mind, the people who walked away, the doors that closed before you could even step through, the painful reminders that what you longed for was not yet yours. It felt personal. It felt final. But here is what you must understand. Rejection was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to redirect you. It wasn't a sign of your unworthiness, nor was it proof that you were unloved. Instead, it was a divine intervention, God's way of protecting you from settling for something less than His best. Every no you received was never an absence of love, but rather a safeguard from the wrong love. Every heartbreak was not a punishment, but a preparation for something greater. Consider Joseph, a young man full of dreams, sold into slavery by his own brothers, betrayed, abandoned, discarded. To them, it was the end of his story, but to God it was just the beginning. The very path that others meant for his downfall became the stepping stone to his destiny. What they intended for evil, God transformed into a position of power and influence. What if Joseph had never been sold? What if he had never faced rejection? He would have never walked into his God-ordained purpose. Think about Hannah, a woman who knew the sting of rejection all too well. She was mocked and ridiculed for her barrenness, treated as if she had no worth. The whispers of those around her must have been deafening, their sneers a constant reminder of what she lacked. But in her brokenness, she turned to God, pouring out her soul before Him. And in His perfect timing, He gave her Samuel, a child who would grow into a mighty prophet. Had she not endured the waiting, the heartbreak, and the rejection, she may have never birthed the man who would anoint kings. And then there was Noah, a man who spent years building an ark when there was no sign of rain. The people around him laughed, calling him foolish. They mocked his obedience, dismissed his faith, and saw his unwavering trust in God as ridiculous. But when the flood came, Noah stood secure, while the world was washed away. His rejection by man positioned him for preservation by God. Now look at yourself. Every rejection you have faced was not the end of your story. It was merely a chapter in God's greater plan. He saw the hidden betrayals, the unspoken intentions, the silent wounds that you couldn't perceive, and in His infinite wisdom, He intervened not to hurt you, but to shield you. What felt like abandonment was actually divine alignment. The doors that closed were never meant for you. The people who left were never meant to stay. And the love that has not yet arrived is simply being prepared in God's perfect timing. You were never being denied. You were being redirected. And when God finally opens the right door, you will understand why every closed one was necessary. The world has a habit of overlooking treasures while they are still being formed. A diamond in its raw state looks like nothing more than an ordinary rock, dull, unremarkable, unworthy of attention. But to a skilled jeweler, it holds immeasurable value, waiting to be refined and revealed. You are that diamond. For years they dismissed you. They told you that you were too much, or perhaps not enough. Too soft, too strong, too quiet, too bold. They convinced you that love was something others received, but not you. Maybe you started to believe it, that somehow you were destined to be overlooked, that your heart was too big, your standards too high, your dreams too impossible. But the rejection of men has no power over the approval of God. Look at David, the forgotten son. When the prophet Samuel came to anoint the next king of Israel, David's own father didn't even bother to present him. Instead, Jesse paraded his older, stronger, more impressive-looking sons before Samuel, assuming that surely one of them was the chosen one. But God had already made His decision. Do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him. The Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. David was overlooked by men but handpicked by God. His own family failed to recognize his worth, yet he was the one God called to be king. Look at Jesus, the Son of God. He was despised and rejected, mocked and ridiculed by the very people He came to save. They spat at Him, accused Him, and cast Him aside, believing He was nothing more than an ordinary man, unworthy of honor. But their rejection did not change His identity. It fulfilled His destiny. Had they not despised Him, had they not crucified Him, the greatest act of love, the redemption of humanity, would never have been completed. You were never meant to fit in with those who couldn't see your worth. They didn't recognize you because they weren't meant to. They didn't cherish you because they weren't assigned to your destiny. Their rejection was not a reflection of your value. It was proof of their inability to see it. You are a masterpiece in progress, being shaped by the hands of the Creator. And when the right person enters your life, they will see you, not as something to be discarded, but as something to be cherished. The love that is coming will honor you the way you deserve. No more begging to be seen. No more wondering if you're enough. No more questioning if love is meant for you. Because it is. And when it arrives, you will understand why those who failed to see your worth were never meant to have you. You are not waiting in vain. Every moment of longing, every tear you've shed, every whispered prayer, it has all been seen by God. Yet the enemy has worked tirelessly to convince you otherwise. He has whispered lies into your heart, trying to make you believe that love is not meant for you. He has told you that you are forgotten, unworthy, or simply not destined for happiness. He has taken your disappointments and shaped them into doubts, hoping you would give up on the promise God has written over your life. But stop for a moment and ask yourself, if your love story wasn't powerful, why would the enemy try so hard to make you doubt it? The enemy does not attack what is insignificant. His greatest fear is that you will hold on to faith and trust in the divine timing of God. He knows that when your love story unfolds, it will be a testimony, one that will silence every doubt and prove that God always fulfills his promises. Look at Ruth. She lost everything: her husband, her security, her home. She could have chosen to give up, to let bitterness take over, but instead, she followed God's path. She remained faithful even when the future seemed uncertain. And in doing so, she walked right into the arms of Boaz, a man of honor and integrity, a man whom God had already prepared for her. Her story reminds us that even in loss, God is leading us to something greater. Think about Sarah. She waited decades for God's promise to be fulfilled. She even laughed at the thought of having a child in her old age. It seemed impossible. Time had passed. Hope seemed lost. But God's timing is never late. It is always perfect. Isaac was born, just as God had promised now. Think about you. Do you truly believe that the same God who orchestrated love stories for generations has somehow forgotten yours? Impossible. The love God has for you is already written. It is sealed in heaven, untouched by human rejection, protected from every past heartbreak, immune to every lie the enemy has spoken over your life. No disappointment, no delay, and no doubt can erase what God has already set in motion. Hold on, stay faithful, and trust that when God writes a love story, nothing and no one can take it away. When this love arrives, it will be more than just a relationship. It will be a testimony. It will be undeniable proof that God's promises are true, that his timing is perfect, and that no rejection, delay, or disappointment could stop what he has ordained for you. The very people who once mocked your faith, who doubted that true love was possible for you, will be left speechless. They will have no choice but to watch as you step into a love so profound, so divinely orchestrated, that it will erase every lie ever spoken against you. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. This love will be an overflowing cup, a demonstration of God's faithfulness, a reminder that he never forgets his promises. It will restore what the enemy tried to steal: your confidence, your hope, your belief in love. Where rejection once made you feel unworthy, this love will remind you that you were always worth waiting for. This love will not be built on fleeting attraction or temporary infatuation. It will not be something you have to chase, beg for, or fight to keep. It will never leave you feeling insecure, questioning your worth, or doubting your place in someone's heart. Instead, it will be a covenant, sealed in faith and divine purpose. It will be a love that uplifts, strengthens, and heals. A partnership that reflects God's glory. It will be the kind of love that feels safe, certain, and unwavering, where you are cherished for who you truly are. This love will not only bring joy to your heart, but it will also silence every doubter, proving that God's plans for you were far greater than what anyone could have imagined. What once seemed impossible will now stand as a testimony to his power and his perfect love for you. Every moment of loneliness was never wasted. It was a season of divine preparation. Those nights when your heart ached, believing that love had passed you by, were not empty moments of despair. They were sacred. Your tears were not in vain. They were watering the seeds of something greater, something heaven ordained, something worth every second of the wait. It may have felt like silence, like your prayers were echoing into nothingness, but all along, heaven was moving. Every moment you chose faith over fear, every time you surrendered your desires instead of grasping at something less, you were waging spiritual warfare. You were breaking chains you couldn't see, dismantling generational cycles that had kept others bound. You were preparing your heart, stretching your spirit, allowing God to refine you so that when His promise arrived, you would be ready to receive it fully. Waiting is not punishment. It is preparation. God wasn't withholding love from you. He was protecting you from anything less than His best. He wasn't ignoring your prayers. He was aligning them with His perfect timing. What you thought was delay was actually divine strategy. And now the shift is happening. The long nights of wondering, the seasons of waiting, the whispered prayers in solitude, all of it has led to this moment. The season of waiting is ending, and the season of fulfillment is beginning. The doors that once seemed closed are opening, and what once felt impossible is now within reach. God is speaking. My child, I have seen your tears. I have heard your prayers. I have watched you trust me even when you couldn't see the way forward. And now, I am bringing you the love I have prepared for you. The love that is coming is not just an answer to your prayers. It is a reflection of my faithfulness. It is a love that will glorify me, a love that will stand the test of time, a love that was always meant for you. What is coming will not just heal your heart. It will prove that the wait was never wasted. It will remind you why settling was never an option. The love that is about to enter your life is not just a blessing. It is a testimony of endurance, of faith, of a God who never forgets His promises. This love story will be written by the hand of God, sealed by His favor, and no one, not even the enemy, will be able to erase it. So, stand tall, hold your head high, because your true love is not just coming, it is here. The love that was once a promise is now becoming a reality. The story they thought had ended is just beginning, and the next time they laugh, it won't be at you. If this message has touched your heart, don't let the journey end here. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay connected as we continue to walk in faith, uncover God's promises, and embrace the love He has prepared for us. Your support helps spread this powerful message. Let's walk this journey together. Chosen one, this message has found you at the perfect time. This is not a coincidence. This is destiny unfolding before your eyes. The universe, the divine, and your own higher self have aligned to bring you here, right now, at this exact moment. You have always felt different, haven't you? A deep knowing within you whispers that you do not truly belong in the world around you. You've questioned your purpose, your struggles, and the very nature of your existence. And now, the truth is ready to be revealed. You are not ordinary. You were never meant to be. You are the lost child of a royal bloodline, a lineage not of this world, but of divine origin. Your very soul carries the mark of the chosen ones, those who were separated from their true inheritance and placed among the ordinary, but never meant to stay there. The time for your awakening has come. The signs have been appearing. The synchronicities, the deep spiritual pull, the unseen forces guiding you towards something greater. This message is not just words. It is a call to your soul, a reminder of who you truly are. Are you ready to discover? From the moment you were born, the world has tried to convince you that you are just like everyone else. You have been told to conform, to follow the rules, to fit into the mold that society has created. Yet deep within your soul, you have always known that something was different about you. No matter how much you tried to blend in, there was always a lingering feeling that you were meant for something more. You have questioned why you see the world differently, why you feel things so deeply, why you cannot accept the shallow pursuits that seem to satisfy others. The answer is simple. You were never meant to be ordinary. You are part of something far greater than you can imagine, a sacred bloodline, a lineage of spiritual warriors, divine leaders, and enlightened beings. This bloodline has existed since the beginning of time, carrying the wisdom and power of the divine. But throughout history, forces have worked tirelessly to suppress it, to keep the chosen ones hidden, asleep, and disconnected from their true nature. They have placed you in families and environments that do not recognize you, surrounded you with distractions, and created illusions to make you forget who you are. But the truth cannot be erased. You have always been different because you were meant to be. While others are content with the illusions of this world, you have been searching for something real. You have been drawn to ancient wisdom, spiritual truths, and knowledge that goes beyond the material world. This is because your soul remembers. It carries sacred knowledge that cannot be found in books, wisdom passed down through generations of divine beings. Even when you were unaware of it, your spirit was guiding you back to the truth of who you are. You are not just learning, you are remembering. Your life has not been easy, and that is no coincidence. Every hardship, every betrayal, every moment of loneliness was not meant to break you. It was meant to awaken you. The world has tested you, placing obstacles in your path, trying to dim your light. You have been made to feel like an outcast, like you do not belong. But in reality, all of this has been part of a greater plan. The fire you have walked through was not meant to destroy you. It was meant to forge you into the powerful being you were always meant to become. And now, the time has come for you to rise. The illusions are fading, and your soul is calling you to step into your true power. No longer will you shrink yourself to fit into a world that was never meant for you. No longer will you doubt the deep knowing that has always been inside you. You are awakening, stepping into the truth of your divine identity. The forces that have tried to suppress you can no longer hold you back. You are part of something ancient, something sacred, something unstoppable. From the moment you took your first breath, your path was different. Unlike those around you, your life was never filled with ease or effortless belonging. Instead, you have walked a road marked by struggle, loneliness, and an unshakable hunger for something more. But none of this was by accident. Every challenge, every unanswered question, and every moment of feeling like an outsider was part of something far greater than you ever imagined. Long before you were born, a prophecy was written, one that spoke of the lost children, those who would one day awaken to their true nature and reclaim the power that was always meant for them. You are one of them. You are the lost child separated from your divine inheritance, hidden among the ordinary so that, in time, you would remember who you truly are. The ancient prophecies tell of souls like yours, beings who were once connected to a higher realm, seated upon spiritual thrones, but cast into a world of illusion. The forces that seek to control this world feared the awakening of the lost children, for they knew that once these souls reclaimed their true identities, everything would change. The wisdom they carry is ancient and powerful, but before they can step into their destiny, they must first endure trials that will shape them into the warriors they were always meant to be. You have spent your life feeling different, as though you were out of place in a world that does not understand you. You have questioned why your soul seems disconnected from those around you, why your heart longs for something beyond what this world offers. But now, the answer is clear. You were never meant to fully belong here. You were placed in this world not to conform, but to awaken. You were born into a system that was designed to keep you asleep, blind to your true power. The distractions, the expectations, the pressures, all of it was meant to keep you from remembering. But despite everything, your soul has resisted. No matter how many obstacles life has thrown at you, something deep inside you has always pushed back. That unshakable feeling that you are meant for more, that your existence holds a deeper purpose, is not a mere thought. It is a calling. It is the whisper of the prophecy echoing within you, reminding you of the truth that the world has tried to make you forget. The prophecy states that before their awakening, the lost child must endure suffering. They will be cast aside, misunderstood, and rejected. They will feel abandoned, betrayed, and unseen. The world will do everything in its power to convince them that they are weak, that they are alone, that they are not enough. But the prophecy also states that through this suffering, they will develop a strength that cannot be broken. They will rise not because they were given an easy path, but because they have been forged in the fire of adversity. And now, it is your time. The illusions are fading, and the truth is breaking through. You can feel the shift happening within you. The world that once held you captive no longer has power over you. The struggles that once seemed unbearable now make sense. Every moment of isolation, every hardship, every tear has been preparing you for this moment. The time has come for you to step into who you were always meant to be. You are no longer lost. You are awakening. And as you rise, the world around you will begin to change. This is your journey. This is your prophecy. And now it is time for you to embrace it. Your journey has been one of solitude, and this is no accident. From the very beginning, you have walked a path that few can understand. While others moved through life feeling at home in the world, you felt different, like an outsider looking in, searching for a connection that always seemed just out of reach. You have felt the weight of isolation pressing against you, the deep ache of being misunderstood, and the quiet struggle of feeling disconnected from those around you. But make no mistake, this was never a punishment. It was preparation. The loneliness you have experienced was not a sign that something was wrong with you. It was a necessary trial, a sacred process designed to shape you into the person you were always meant to become. The test of separation is one of the most challenging obstacles that a chosen one must endure, yet it is also one of the most powerful. It strips away illusions, removing the distractions and external influences that keep so many people trapped in a false reality. It forces you to rely on the only things that truly matter, your inner strength and your connection to the divine. Throughout history, the greatest spiritual leaders, prophets, and enlightened beings have walked this same path before stepping into their destiny. They too were cast out, rejected, misunderstood. They too felt the sting of isolation. But this was not a mistake. It was a necessary step in their transformation. Before they could rise, they had to first endure the silence. They had to learn to listen to the voice within, to find clarity in the emptiness, to build strength in the absence of external validation. The same is true for you. The solitude you have faced was meant to purify you. It was designed to remove the noise of the world, to strip away everything that was not aligned with your true purpose. It was in the moments of stillness, when you had no one else to turn to, that you found the greatest truth. The quiet forced you to look inward, to face yourself, to uncover the wisdom that had always been within you. You were never truly alone. Even in your loneliest moments, you were being guided, shaped, and prepared for something far greater than you could imagine. Now, you must accept this truth. The pain of separation was never meant to break you. It was meant to reveal your strength. It was not meant to make you feel unworthy, but to remind you that you were never meant to fit into the mold of this world. You were chosen to rise above, to see beyond the illusions, to walk a path that few are strong enough to take. The test of separation was never meant to be easy, but it was always meant to lead you to exactly where you are now. You have endured, you have grown, you have awakened, and now it is time to step fully into who you were always meant to be. The moment you realize who you truly are, everything begins to change. It is not a gradual shift, but a complete transformation, one that reshapes your mind, your soul, and your spirit. The world you once knew starts to feel unfamiliar, as if the veil that kept you blind has suddenly been lifted. What once entertained you now feels empty. The conversations and distractions that used to hold your attention no longer resonate. The relationships that once seemed comfortable begin to feel forced, as if they no longer belong in your life. It is as though a hidden layer of reality has been exposed, and you can no longer pretend that you do not see it. As your awakening deepens, your intuition sharpens. You start noticing the things that others overlook, feeling the energies that others ignore. Your dreams become more vivid, sometimes carrying messages and visions that feel almost prophetic. The patterns of the universe become clearer, and the signs that were always there suddenly make sense. You begin to recognize the illusions that have kept people trapped, the falsehoods that have shaped their beliefs, and the deceptions that have controlled their lives. You no longer accept things at face value because you can see through the veils that once blinded you. This is the beginning of your true power. The moment you step beyond the illusions and into the truth of your existence. But understand this, awakening is not easy. It is not a path of comfort, nor is it a journey that many will understand. To awaken is to face the truth, and sometimes the truth is painful. It means confronting the lies you once believed, the conditioning that shaped you, and the attachments that no longer serve you. It means letting go of people, habits, and situations that you once held close but now realize are holding you back. This part of the journey can feel lonely, as many around you may not understand the changes taking place within you. Some may question you, some may resist your transformation, and some may even try to pull you back into the version of yourself that you have outgrown. But you must stand firm. This awakening is not a mistake. It is your destiny. The universe has been guiding you toward this moment, preparing you for the path that only a few are strong enough to walk. You must embrace who you are, even when it means standing alone. You must trust in your inner wisdom, even when others doubt you. And above all, you must claim your inheritance, not as something that needs to be earned, but as something that has always belonged to you. You are awakening to your divine nature. You are stepping into your power, and once you begin this journey, there is no turning back. The illusions of the past can no longer hold you, and the truth that has been revealed can never be unseen. You are no longer lost, no longer asleep. You are becoming who you were always meant to be. Now, it is time to walk forward with courage, with purpose, and with the unshakable knowing that you are destined for something greater. Accepting your divine birthright is only the first step. Now, you must rise and reclaim what has always been yours. You were never meant to live in doubt, uncertainty, or fear. You were born with a sacred inheritance, one that has been hidden beneath layers of conditioning, deception, and self-doubt. But the time for hesitation is over. Now is the moment to step into your true power. Your inheritance is not material wealth or earthly possessions. It is far greater. It is the wisdom of your ancestors, the strength of your spirit, and the divine authority that has always been within you. It is the unshakable truth that you are not ordinary, that you were chosen for something beyond the limitations of this world. No longer will you question your worth. No longer will you search for validation outside of yourself. Everything you have been seeking has been inside you all along. You are not here to ask permission to be who you are. You are not here to beg for what has always belonged to you. You are here to claim it. Speak it into existence. Declare it with unwavering confidence. I am the lost child of the divine kingdom, and I reclaim my power. The moment you say these words with conviction, something within you shifts. The chains that once held you back begin to break. The illusions that kept you small start to dissolve. The forces that have tried to suppress you can no longer stand in your way. You are no longer bound by the past. You are no longer confined by the expectations of the world. You are stepping into the fullness of your divine identity. Final message to the chosen ones. Everything you have been through, every trial, every heartbreak, every moment of isolation, was leading you to this truth. You are royalty. You have walked through the fire. You have endured the storms. And yet, you are still here. That alone is proof of your power. The time for doubt is over. The time for hesitation has passed. You are no longer lost. You are no longer searching. You have found your way home, to yourself, to your truth, to your divine inheritance. Now, rise. Your time has come. That is more than enough. Like this message, comment below, subscribe so you don't miss any future revelations, and most importantly, step into your divine calling. May God bless you richly. May His favor surround you. Something extraordinary is unfolding right now, and you are at the very center of it. This is not a coincidence. This is not an accident. You are meant to be here, reading these words at this precise moment. A sacred event is about to take place, one that has been divinely orchestrated for you. Today, a God-chosen government official is looking for you, not just anyone because you specifically. What do they know about you that the rest of the world doesn't? What have they seen that even you might not fully understand yet? Could it be that they have recognized something hidden within you? A power, a calling, a divine anointing for wealth and influence? Could this be the moment when everything in your life shifts? Imagine for a moment, a powerful government official, handpicked by God, reaching out to meet with you privately, not for political reasons, not to ask for favors because they have witnessed something undeniable about your destiny. They see a force within you, a supernatural connection to abundance, favor, and prosperity that is about to manifest. But here's the real question. Do you see it too? This might be the moment you have been waiting for your entire life. Could this be the long-awaited turning point? The moment when God reveals your true purpose and leads you straight into the financial breakthrough you've been praying for? If something in your spirit is stirring right now, acknowledge it. Comment 777 below as a declaration that you are stepping into divine alignment. This is about unlocking a reality that very few will ever step into. A kingdom wealth transfer is on the horizon, but it will only be received by those who recognize the signs and seize the moment. The doors to supernatural increase and divine positioning are swinging open. Will you step through them? Stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal could be the exact knowledge you need to walk into your breakthrough. What happens next may very well change the course of your entire life. You are stepping into a new season of your life, one that has been divinely orchestrated. It is a calling, a sacred invitation into something far greater than you have ever imagined. While many walk through life only acknowledging what is visible to the eye, you have been given a gift, the ability to perceive the unseen. You recognize what others overlook. You sense the intricate, invisible forces that shape the world around you. This is no accident. It is a deliberate choice made by God, a divine selection that sets you apart for a unique and powerful purpose. Deep down, have you ever felt there was something different about you? Have you ever noticed the way people look at you, as if they see something in you that you yourself have yet to fully recognize? Perhaps there have been moments when you felt destined for something greater, even if you could not quite put it into words. That feeling is not your imagination. It is the truth. God has placed a special vision inside your heart, a vision that sets you apart, a vision that speaks of influence, abundance, and transformation. And now, the world is beginning to take notice. People in positions of power, those who shape economies and lead nations, have recognized something extraordinary within you. They see the qualities that make you stand out. They sense the potential that has been placed inside you, waiting to be unlocked. And now, something unexpected is happening. A government official, chosen by God, is searching for you. This is not an ordinary encounter. It is a divine appointment, a moment designed by the Creator Himself. But why? What is it that they see in you? What knowledge do they possess that you are yet to fully comprehend? Could it be that they recognize a strength, a wisdom, an anointing that even you have not fully embraced? Could it be that they see you as part of a much bigger plan, a plan where wealth and influence are being transferred into the hands of those who have been chosen by God? You are not here by accident. You have been positioned, prepared, and called for such a time as this. Everything you have been through, every trial, every hardship, has been leading you to this moment. And now, the doors are opening. The opportunity to step into your divine destiny is before you. The question is, are you ready to walk through? Something powerful is unfolding within you. A shift so profound that it defies logic, a transformation so extraordinary that it can only be orchestrated by God. You have walked through fire, endured hardships that would have broken most, faced betrayals that cut deep, and encountered obstacles that seemed impossible to overcome. And yet, here you are, still standing, still rising, still pressing forward. The world may have expected you to fall. Your enemies may have assumed you would give up. Even you, at times, may have doubted whether you could withstand the storms that came your way. But through every trial, through every tear, through every dark night when hope seemed like a distant dream, you endured. And that endurance is not by accident. There is something within you, something the world cannot comprehend, a force greater than mere willpower, stronger than sheer determination. It is divine power, the kind that only those chosen by God can recognize and harness. It is the ability to rise when everything around you is telling you to fall. It is the strength to keep going when the weight of the world is pressing down on your shoulders. That power is transformation. You have the extraordinary ability to take everything meant to destroy you and turn it into the very thing that fuels your success. While others see suffering as the end of the road, you see it as the beginning of something greater. While many allow pain to define them, you use it to refine you. What others view as a stumbling block, you transform into a stepping stone. Your struggles have not been in vain. Every challenge, every disappointment, every closed door was preparing you for something greater. Your pain has not been wasted. It has shaped you, molded you, strengthened you in ways you never thought possible. It has built resilience in your spirit, wisdom in your mind, and fire in your soul. Consider this. Gold is purified through fire. Diamonds are formed under pressure. The strongest trees are those that have weathered the fiercest storms. Likewise, the trials you have faced have not been punishments. They have been preparations. And now, the shift is happening. The old is being stripped away, and the new is emerging. You are stepping into a season where everything that once worked against you will begin to work for you. Where the doors that were once shut will start to swing open. Where the very things that caused you pain will now propel you into purpose. What once broke you is now building you. What once wounded you is now awakening you. You are standing on the edge of something magnificent, something life-altering. You are stepping into the destiny that was always meant for you. So take a deep breath. Stand tall. Walk boldly into what is next, knowing that everything you have been through has prepared you for this very moment. This is not just a season of change. This is your transformation. The moment is drawing near. Can you sense it? The doors that once seemed locked are about to open, and when they do, you will look back and realize that everything you have been through, every struggle, every setback, every moment of uncertainty, was shaping you for this very opportunity. Nothing was wasted. The pain, the disappointments, the battles you fought in silence, all of it has been part of a divine preparation. You were never forgotten. You were being refined for something far greater. As one of God's chosen, you have been set apart, called to something beyond the ordinary. You were not meant to simply exist, to go through life merely surviving. You were created to thrive, to walk in divine abundance, and to step into the fullness of your destiny. But the question is not whether you are chosen. The question is, are you ready to claim what has already been prepared for you? This is more than just another season. This is a divine moment in time. A moment where everything shifts, where the pieces finally come together. God, in His infinite wisdom, has placed you exactly where you need to be. He has orchestrated every step, every delay, every detour to bring you to this place, at this precise moment. The doors that no man could open are now being unlocked by His hand. The opportunities that once seemed out of reach are now aligning in your favor. But will you step through? Throughout history, God has called His people into moments just like this. Moments that changed the course of their lives forever. He called Abraham to leave everything behind and follow a promise he could not yet see. He led Joseph from the depths of a prison to the heights of a palace. He positioned Esther, an orphan girl, to become a queen and save an entire nation. He anointed David, a mere shepherd, to rise as king over Israel. And now, he is calling you. Perhaps you have felt it, a stirring in your spirit, a whisper in your heart telling you that you are on the edge of something extraordinary. You may not be able to explain it, but deep within, you know that change is coming. You are standing at the threshold of a divine breakthrough. It may not always make sense. The process may have been painful. There were seasons when you questioned why certain doors remained closed, why the journey felt so long, why the answers didn't come when you expected them to. But even when you could not see it, God was working behind the scenes. Even when you didn't understand, He was preparing the way. This meeting, this divine appointment, is not a coincidence. It is God's perfect timing. It is His orchestration. It is His will. You have walked in faith when everything around you suggested otherwise. You have endured trials that tested your strength, and yet you have not been defeated. Now He is positioning you for the very thing He has promised. Your faith, your perseverance, and your trust in Him have brought you here. But now you must decide. Will you embrace the destiny that has been waiting for you all along? The opportunities, the blessings, the divine favor, they are already yours. But you must be willing to receive them. This is not the time to shrink back in fear. This is not the time to hesitate. This is your time to rise, to step boldly into the abundance that has been prepared for you, to walk in confidence, knowing that God Himself has paved the way before you. The doors are open. The path is clear. Your time is now. Step forward. Claim your divine inheritance. Walk into the life that God has destined for you. This is your moment. If this message resonates with you, I invite you to show your support and join us in continuing this mission. Your generosity, your engagement, your willingness to open your heart to God's voice, that is more than enough. Like this message, comment below, subscribe so you don't miss any future revelations, and most importantly, step into your divine calling. May God bless you richly. May His favor surround you. May you walk boldly in the path He has set before you. You are chosen. You are powerful. You are stepping into divine abundance. The best is yet to come. They never saw it coming. They laughed when you struggled. They doubted you when you tried. They mocked you when you failed. And now they're choking on their own arrogance, watching you walk away as their world crumbles. This isn't just an exit, it's a reckoning. They never thought you'd break free. They believed they had you trapped, locked inside their twisted little game. You were their convenience, their safety net, their endless source of energy. They never realized the power you held, the strength you concealed beneath your silence. Because the chosen ones, we don't just leave. We erase our presence so completely that they have no choice but to face the cold, bitter truth. Without us, they are nothing. They'll call it dramatic. They'll pretend to be shocked. They'll whisper about how you changed, how you turned cold. But the truth, you didn't change. You woke up. You realized that staying wasn't loyalty. It was a slow death. And survival meant choosing yourself over the ones who only loved you when they could use you. Here's the ugly truth. Most people don't miss you. They miss what you did for them. It's not love they're grieving. It's their loss of control. The comfort you once gave them is gone, and now they're left with the emptiness they tried to bury beneath your sacrifice. But the best part? You didn't leave with anger. You didn't beg. You didn't scream. You just walked out. And that's what haunts them the most. Because silence is the loudest goodbye, and indifference is the most brutal revenge. This isn't just about walking away. This is about reclaiming your power. The power they pretended you didn't have. The power they tried to drain from you. But here's what they never understood. A chosen one's power doesn't fade. It evolves. They're stuck in the ruins of their own delusion while you rise. And to you, the one who finally walked away, the one who refused to be caged, this is your moment. If you've been here from the start or just found your way into this space, know this: you are not alone. This is where the ones who broke free come together. So if you're ready to stand firm in your decision, if you're ready to never look back and to own the power they never wanted you to realize, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop 77 in the comments to mark the moment you chose yourself over them. And now, let's break it down, step by step, because trust me, if you're truly one of the chosen ones, you'll feel it. The pull, the truth, the fire. Stay with me until the end, because by the time we're done, you'll never question your decision again. Number 1. You were there but never seen. They didn't lose you. They lost the privilege of your presence. And now, all they have left is the echo of what they never appreciated. They sit in disbelief, wondering how you could walk away so easily. But the truth is, you were already gone long before you left. You had been fading for a long time, slipping away in quiet moments, in forced smiles, in sighs that went unnoticed. You were there, but never truly seen. You existed in the background, a steady presence they relied on but never acknowledged. They mistook your silence for submission, your patience for acceptance, your endurance for an obligation to stay. You were expected to be there, to give, to sacrifice, to bend, because that's what you always did. They never questioned your presence because they assumed it was permanent. But what they failed to realize is that no one stays where they are invisible forever. Every moment they overlooked you, every time they dismissed your needs, every instance where they made you feel small, those were the cracks forming in the foundation. And by the time they noticed, it was too late. You had already withdrawn, your heart had already left, and when you finally walked away, it wasn't an impulsive decision, it was inevitable. Now, they sit in the emptiness they created, forced to confront the truth they never wanted to face. You weren't a convenience. You weren't an afterthought. You were the light they took for granted. And now that you're gone, they are left with nothing but the cold reality of what they lost. And this time, you're not coming back. Number 2. They drained your light, then cried in the darkness. They thought your light was infinite, like the sun always there, always shining, always giving without question. They took from you endlessly, basking in your warmth, feeding off your energy, using your strength to hold themselves together. You were the fire that kept them warm, the steady glow that lit their path, and they never once stopped to wonder what would happen if you had nothing left to give. They assumed you would always be there, strong and unwavering, because that's who you were, the one who carried the weight, the one who solved the problems, the one who made life easier. They never noticed when you started to dim. They were too busy enjoying your light, too consumed with their own comfort, to see that the fire inside you was flickering, that the exhaustion was creeping in, that you were running on empty. And then, one day, the light went out. Not with a dramatic explosion, not with a fiery storm, but with quiet finality. You had given all you had, and there was nothing left. And suddenly, they were left in the darkness, lost and panicked, struggling to navigate a world without your warmth. They didn't miss you, they missed what you did for them. They missed the way you softened their chaos, the way you carried what they refused to hold, the way you made everything easier. But here's the painful truth. Light is not free. It needs care, respect, and reciprocity. And when those things are missing, even the brightest flame will burn out. Now they sit in the cold, desperate for the glow they once took for granted. But you're gone, and this time they'll have to learn to survive the darkness on their own. Number 3. shattering the illusion, escaping the cage they built for you. They didn't fear losing you. They feared you, realizing you never needed them in the first place. The cage they built around you was never made of bars. It was woven from pretty words, love, loyalty, duty, wrapped in the illusion of safety. They made it seem like protection, like something built to keep you safe. But the truth, it was never about your safety. It was about keeping you small. They needed you predictable, manageable, easy to control, a piece that fit neatly into their carefully crafted puzzle, never disrupting their world. You weren't supposed to think beyond the walls they placed around you. You weren't supposed to question the limits they set, but you did. At first, it was just a feeling, a tightness in your chest, a whisper in the back of your mind telling you something wasn't right. You ignored it, convincing yourself this was just how things were. Maybe if you shrank yourself just a little more, if you became just a little quieter, you could make it work. But then, something shifted. Maybe it was a single moment of clarity. Maybe it was 1,000 little moments of dismissal, disrespect, and being unseen. But suddenly, the cage wasn't invisible anymore. You saw it for what it was, a prison disguised as a home. And once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it. So, you started pushing, testing the walls, reclaiming space, becoming who you were always meant to be. And that's when the panic set in. They saw you changing, growing, refusing to be contained, and they hated it. Not because they loved you, but because they loved controlling you. Now they call you selfish, ungrateful, even cruel. But let's be clear, you didn't leave them. You left the version of yourself that fit inside their cage. You left the silence, the smallness, the endless need for their approval. And the final bitter truth? They can't follow you. They were never willing to grow, never willing to break their own chains. So now all they can do is watch as you rise, knowing that they never had the power. You were just waiting to take it back. Number 4, how walking away took their power. Their power over you was never real. It was an illusion. And the moment you walked away, you shattered it. For so long, they played their game well, wrapping their control in pretty words, concern, loyalty, love. But make no mistake, it was never love. It was power disguised as care. Every decision you made was quietly influenced. Every boundary you set was blurred just enough to keep you trapped. And every time you doubted them, they fed you just enough validation to keep you coming back. They believed they had you locked in, convinced that you would always seek their approval, that their opinions could shape your choices, that you needed them. That belief was their safety net, their illusion of power. But the moment you walked away, you ripped it to shreds. They weren't prepared for this. They thought guilt, obligation, and the fear they planted in you would keep you bound to them forever. They miscalculated. They underestimated you. Because the moment you realized that their power only existed as long as you allowed it, it was over. You didn't leave in anger. You didn't leave for revenge. You left because you outgrew the lies. You saw through the manipulation, the guilt trips, the mind games. You stopped bending, stopped shrinking, stopped second-guessing yourself just to fit into their world. You reclaimed yourself. And that was the most dangerous thing you could have done in their eyes. Now they are scrambling, lost in a world where you no longer play by their rules. They sit in disbelief, asking themselves how this happened. But the answer is simple. Their power was never real. It only worked because you let it. And now that you're gone, their empire of control has collapsed into nothing. They built their strength on the illusion that you would never leave. And you just proved them wrong. Number 5. The loss that leaves scars when nothing can replace you. Some losses are temporary, but others leave scars so deep that nothing ever grows there again. Your absence isn't just noticed, it's felt. When you left, it wasn't just a goodbye. It was a rupture, a tear in the fabric of their world. The kind of absence that doesn't fade with time. It lingers. It echoes. It haunts. They thought they could move on, replace you, patch up the gap with someone new. But some spaces can't be filled. You weren't just another person in their life. You were the glue that held everything together, the steady force that kept things from falling apart, the one who made sense of their chaos, who brought light into their dull existence. You were the quit foundation, the overlooked constant, and now that you're gone, that foundation is gone too. They never saw you that way before. You were just there, like air, unnoticed until it's missing, like gravity, never questioned until the fall. They assumed you'd always be around, that no matter how much they ignored you, used you, overlooked you, you'd still show up, still pour into them, still hold everything together. But now they're choking on the emptiness. Your absence is loud. It rings in every awkward silence, in every mistake they can't fix, in every hollow moment where something just feels wrong. They try to drown it out, to cover it up with distractions, with substitutes, with empty reassurances that they'll be fine. But they won't. Because deep down they know the truth. They lost something irreplaceable. They don't just miss you. They miss the version of their life that worked because of you. And now they're left with nothing but the cold realization that they had something extraordinary, and they ruined it. They thought life would go on seamlessly, that someone else could take your place. But what they're realizing slowly, painfully, is that your absence isn't just a gap. It's a wound, one that won't heal, one they can't ignore, one they'll be forced to live with day after day, as a reminder of what they lost when they let you go. Number 6, they fed off your strength. Now they're starving. They never truly loved you. They loved the way you held their world together while yours was quietly falling apart. They fed off your resilience as if it were endless, as if you were some unshakable force placed in their life to absorb every storm they refused to face. When their lives spiraled, they ran to you. When their emotions crashed, they leaned on you. When everything was chaos, they turned to you to fix it. You were their foundation, their shelter, their quiet savior. But they never stopped to ask who was holding you up. You made it look effortless, didn't you? You carried their burdens with a calm face, swallowed your struggles in silence, and kept everything running smoothly, no matter how much it drained you. And because you never broke, they assumed you never would. That was their mistake. They mistook your endurance for duty, your patience for permission. They believed your strength was something they could use rather than something you needed to protect. But resilience isn't infinite. It isn't a well that never runs dry. You gave and gave and gave until there was nothing left. And then, you finally walked away. You finally chose yourself over them. And in that moment, they didn't just lose a person, they lost their safety net. Now, the cracks are showing. The weight of their dysfunction, once hidden beneath your quiet sacrifices, is exposed. The same people who dismissed your struggles are now gasping for air, drowning in the very chaos you once managed for them. They thought they could depend on you forever, that you would always be there no matter how little they gave in return. They never imagined a world where they would have to stand on their own. But now, they have no choice. For the first time, they are forced to deal with the wreckage, the mess you shielded them from for far too long. Let them panic. Let them struggle. Because now, they're seeing what life looks like without the one person who held it all together. And this time, you're not coming back to save them. Number 7, they can imitate you, but they can't replace you. They thought they could replace you, that someone else could step in, fill the space you left, and life would go on as if you were never there. To them, your presence was just another role to be played, another script to be followed. But they were wrong. Dead wrong. Because when you left, you didn't just take your body, you took the one thing they could never recreate, your authenticity. They can try to mimic your words, repeat your actions, even attach themselves to someone who vaguely resembles you. But they're learning the hard way that authenticity isn't something you can fake, rent, or steal. It's either in you or it's not. And that's where they're drowning. They built their world on illusions, on pretending, on pleasing, on bending to fit whatever mold made them feel accepted. But you were different. You spoke what you meant and meant what you spoke. You saw what others ignored. You refused to be anything but yourself. That scared them. That challenged them. And instead of rising to meet you, they chose to take from you. Now the cracks in their world are showing. The forced laughter, the shallow conversations, the empty gestures, it's all hollow. No matter how hard they try, they can't recreate what made you special. Because what you brought wasn't just energy, it was depth. And that can't be copied. Now they're scrambling, filling their time with distractions, with stand-ins, with anything that numbs the realization creeping into their minds. You were one of one. The connection you gave, the presence you carried, the fire in your words, it wasn't just valuable. It was irreplaceable. And the worst part? They know it. They might act unbothered, might surround themselves with noise to drown out the silence your absence left behind. But deep down, they feel it. They feel the void where your authenticity used to be the raw, unfiltered realness that made everything around you matter. And no matter how much they pretend, that truth will haunt them. Because at the end of the day, they didn't just lose a person. They lost the only real thing they had. Number 8. Your absence is their mirror, and they can't look away. The cruelest truth isn't being abandoned. It's realizing you were the reason someone left. Your walking away wasn't just a loss to them. It was a brutal awakening. They thought they could handle life without you. But the moment you left, everything changed. Not just because you were gone, but because your absence held up a mirror they were never ready to face. They always saw you as the one who would stay, the one who would clean up their messes, smooth over their mistakes, and hold their fragile world together while they took you for granted. But the second you walked away, they were left staring at the cracks they ignored for so long, the ones you had been holding together. They leaned on your strength so they wouldn't have to build their own. They used your wisdom to cover up their poor decisions. They relied on your kindness to excuse their selfishness. As long as you were there, they could deflect, distract, and pretend. But now the silence screams. Now the empty space exposes everything. Without you, the truth is undeniable. Your departure forced them to ask the questions they were never ready to face. Why didn't I appreciate them when I had the chance? Why did I push them so far that they had no choice but to leave? But the hardest question of all, what does it say about me that someone so loyal, so giving, so rare decided I wasn't worth staying for? That thought is poison, because it's one thing to be abandoned. It's another to realize that you earned it. You were their shield, the buffer between them and their own flaws. And now, with no one left to cover their mistakes, their reflection is unforgiving. The toxic cycles they thought they could run forever are now laid bare. The manipulation they used to control you? Useless. The illusion of power they held over you? Gone. And the worst part? It's too late to fix any of it. They lost the best thing they had. And now, every single day, they are haunted by one unshakable truth. They were the reason you left. Number 9. They gambled on your guilt and lost everything. The moment you stopped feeling guilty for choosing yourself was the moment they lost their last weapon against you. They thought they had you locked in not by force, not by words, but by guilt. They built their control around the belief that you would always feel obligated to stay, to keep giving, to keep sacrificing even at your own expense. They counted on the idea that no matter how much they drained you, you'd never have the heart to leave. And for a long time, their plan worked. The emotional weight they placed on your shoulders was never loud or obvious. It was quiet, calculated, a contract you never signed but were always expected to uphold. They made you feel like walking away was selfish, like choosing yourself was a betrayal. Every time you considered leaving, they fed you the same poison. After all I've done for you, you wouldn't just leave me like that. I thought you cared. And for a while, you believed it. You second-guessed yourself. You stayed when you should have left. You gave when you had nothing left. You let their expectations dictate your life because they convinced you that love, friendship, or loyalty meant putting yourself last. But then something shifted, a quiet moment of clarity, a realization so sharp it cut through all the noise. You saw the game for what it was. The guilt they used against you was nothing more than a leash, a tool to keep you small, to keep you available, to keep you under control. And the moment you understood that, everything changed. You left. No hesitation, no looking back, no apologies. And that broke them. Not just because you were gone, but because they lost the grip they thought they had on you. They never expected you to walk away without guilt eating you alive. They never thought you'd wake up and realize that loyalty without reciprocity is nothing more than self-destruction. Now they sit there, replaying it over and over, trying to make sense of how you slipped through their fingers. But they fail to see the truth: they never had you in the first place. They only had your guilt. Number 10, you were their comfort. Now you're their wake-up call. Some lessons are learned in whispers, others in the deafening silence of someone who's never coming back. They thought they had time to push you aside, time to take you for granted, time to play their mind games and assume you'd always be there to clean up their mess. But time just ran out. Your departure wasn't just a goodbye. It was a siren blasting through their delusions, a wrecking ball slamming into their false sense of security. They never imagined a world where you weren't waiting in the background, always ready to forgive, always willing to sacrifice. And now they're drowning in the consequences of their own arrogance. Every misstep they made, every choice they neglected, every moment they ignored your worth, it all comes crashing down on them. They're waking up, but it's too late. They took, assuming you'd always have more to give. They dismissed your pain, brushed aside your needs, and still believed they could keep you tied to them. They assumed you would bend forever, never realizing that one day you would break free. Now, your silence is their loudest punishment. They look around and feel the emptiness where you used to be. They reach for you, but you're gone. And every single day, they are haunted by what they lost. The comfort of knowing you'd always return? Gone. The certainty that they could always get one more chance? Gone. The belief that you needed them more than they needed you? Completely shattered. They can distract themselves, fill their time with noise, surround themselves with temporary replacements, but nothing feels the same. Because you weren't just another person in their life. You were the anchor, the balance, the force that made things work. And now they have to sit in the wreckage of their own making. The worst part? They did this to themselves. They had something rare, something extraordinary, and they let it slip through their fingers. And now, every second without you is a painful reminder of just how badly they failed. But you're done being their lesson. Let them wake up alone, because you're never looking back. Number 11, the fire they took for granted. Some people spend their lives trapped in a world of gray, safe, predictable, and painfully ordinary. They settle for the familiar, surrounding themselves with mediocrity, never daring to disrupt the dull rhythm of their existence. And then, you walked in. You weren't just another presence in their orbit. You were the exception, a force of nature, a fire that burned through their comfort, exposing the cracks they refused to see. You made them feel something real, something they were never brave enough to chase on their own. Without even trying, you shook their world. Your energy, your ambition, your authenticity, It all stood in sharp contrast to the life they had built around convenience and complacency. You reminded them that life is more than just existing. You were proof that something extraordinary was possible, and that terrified them. Because the truth is, people like them don't want to rise. They want to remain. They crave stability, even if it means settling for less. They talk about greatness but refuse to do the work to achieve it. And you were living proof of what they could be, if only they had the courage to try. But instead of rising to meet you, they resented you for it. It's easier to hate the fire than admit you're afraid of burning. They tried to dim you, contain you, make you smaller, not because they didn't see your light, but because they were afraid of what it exposed in them. And now, the illusion is shattered. They thought they could return to their ordinary world, but something is missing. Something they can't replace. The space you once filled is now a hollow void, a reminder of everything they ignored, everything they could have been, and everything they will never become. Because they didn't just lose you, they lost their only chance at more. Number 12. They never loved you. They wanted to own you. They never truly loved you. They loved controlling you. You weren't a person to them. You were a piece in their puzzle, a character in their carefully crafted story. Your presence made their life easier. Your energy kept their world spinning, but your freedom? Your right to choose? That was never part of the deal. They never imagined a version of life where you were no longer at their command. You were supposed to stay exactly where they placed you, bending, adjusting, shrinking to fit their expectations. They mistook your kindness for obedience, your patience for permanence, and your loyalty for self-abandonment. To them, you weren't an individual with needs and dreams of your own. You were a comfort, a stability, a certainty. For too long, they operated under the illusion that you would always prioritize their wants over your own, that your boundaries were mere suggestions, that your identity was flexible enough to be shaped by their hands. They convinced themselves that you would always play along so they'd never have to face the truth they never truly respected you. And just like that, their illusion shattered. Because your leaving wasn't just about walking away, it was about rejecting the cage they put you in. You tore up the unspoken contract that said you had to give, that you had to tolerate, that you had to stay small so they could feel big. And when you walked out, you took something with you. The power they thought they had over you. Now they're left with a brutal truth. The version of you they loved never even existed. It was a projection, a construct they built in their mind. And the real you, the one who refuses to be controlled, the one who walks away without looking back, that's the you they never wanted to see. They don't grieve your absence. They grieve the loss of control. And that is what haunts them the most. They expected a reaction, a dramatic farewell. They thought you'd cry, beg, or plead for them to see your worth. They waited for anger, for heartbreak, for one last desperate attempt to hold on. But instead, you did the one thing they never prepared for. You simply walked away. No fights, no explanations, no lingering goodbyes. And that is what terrifies them the most. They thought they had time to manipulate, time to guilt trip, time to pull you back in just like they always had. They mistook your patience for permanence, your endurance for acceptance. They believed you were so deeply entangled in their world that you'd never find the strength to leave. But what they failed to realize was that your patience wasn't endless. It was a countdown. And when the last second ticked away, you were gone. This wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about making a statement. It was about something far more powerful, self-respect. You didn't ask for permission. You didn't need their understanding. Because when you finally recognize your worth, you don't negotiate it. And now they are haunted by the finality of it all. For the first time, they see the truth their power over you was never real. It was a fragile illusion, one that only existed because you allowed it. The moment you chose yourself, Their entire world collapsed. They call you selfish, cold, heartless. But what they really mean is, how dare you choose yourself over us? Because they were never afraid of losing you. They were afraid of losing control over you. And now that they have, they are left with nothing but the wreckage of their own choices. Your silence? It's the loudest thing they've ever heard, and it will haunt them forever. But here's the truth. They were never meant to hold that kind of power over you. Choosing yourself was never selfish. It was necessary. Walking away wasn't heartless. It was survival. And now, as you stand in your peace, free from their grasp, you realize something powerful. You were never the problem. The weight they placed on you was never yours to carry. And by letting go, you didn't just free yourself. You exposed the truth they tried so hard to bury. Thank you for watching. If this message spoke to you, remember, you are never alone. Your voice matters, your strength is real, and your journey has purpose. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories and reflections. Your support means everything and helps us continue creating content that uplifts and empowers. Until next time, stay strong, Chosen One. Beloved Chosen One, the moment you have long felt in your soul has arrived. No longer do you need to question why you have always felt different, why the world's rules never seemed to apply to you, why the paths others walked with ease never felt like yours to take. Deep within, you have always known. You were never meant to belong to this world. The systems, the structures, the expectations placed upon you, they were all illusions meant to keep you confined. Yet despite every attempt to shape you into something ordinary, your spirit has remained unshaken. And now, the veil is lifting. The truth is emerging. Your real family has come to find you. They have always been there, watching, guiding, waiting for the moment you would awaken to your true destiny. That moment is now. You were never meant to live an ordinary life. You were meant for greatness. Your path was never like others. It was divinely designed, crafted by the hands of a power greater than this world. It is time to reclaim your place, to embrace the truth of who you are, and to walk into the life you are always destined to live. Chapter 1. The signs you have always known. From the moment you became aware of the world around you, something felt different. It wasn't just a fleeting thought or a passing feeling. It was a deep, unshakable knowing that you did not quite belong in the way others seemed to. While those around you moved through life effortlessly, following the unspoken rules of society, you felt like an observer, watching a world that never fully resonated with your soul. You sensed that something far greater existed beyond what was presented to you. As a child, you often found yourself lost in thought, questioning the very nature of reality. Why did people accept things the way they were? Why did they follow rules without questioning who created them? Why did they live in fear of failure, of judgment, of stepping beyond the lines drawn for them? You saw the cracks in the foundation of the world's systems. You noticed how people willingly surrendered their freedom in exchange for comfort, how they followed paths dictated by others without ever daring to forge their own. But you refused. You tried to fit in, to silence that voice inside you that told you there was more. But no matter how hard you tried, it never worked. The conversations around you felt shallow. The ambitions of others seemed empty. While people chased after material success, status, and approval, you longed for something deeper, something eternal. You searched for meaning in ways that others could not understand. There were moments when you felt isolated, wondering if anyone else could sense what you sensed, if anyone else saw beyond the illusion. But even in those lonely moments, your spirit could not be silenced. In the quiet hours of the night, when the world was asleep, your soul stirred. In the spaces between words, in the pauses between breaths, you felt the truth whispering to you. You are more than this. You were meant for something greater. And now, at last, that deep knowing is being confirmed. the questions that have followed you for so long, the quiet urges of your soul, the persistent feeling that you were destined for something beyond this world. They were never wrong. You were never imagining things. You were never lost. You were always awake. Chapter 2. The moment of transformation. Have you ever witnessed a moment when someone who once seemed unshakable, so sure of themselves, so unwavering in their beliefs, suddenly hesitates? A soldier trained for battle, conditioned to react without fear, yet in a critical moment, their hands tremble. A leader, once moving with unbreakable confidence, now questions the very decisions they once made without doubt. A figure of power and certainty, suddenly uncertain. What could cause such a profound shift? What force is great enough to disrupt years, perhaps even a lifetime of conditioning? It happens when they encounter something greater than themselves. This is the moment when everything changes. It is the breaking point between who they were and who they are meant to become. It is the moment when the weight of truth becomes undeniable, when the veil of illusion is torn away, revealing what was hidden all along. King Saul knew this moment well. Chosen by God to lead Israel, he commanded with authority, making decisions that shaped the fate of a nation. He was strong, respected, and anointed for greatness. Yet, when he turned away from divine guidance, his power began to fade. His confidence eroded, his decisions faltered, and his spirit grew restless. The prophet Samuel rebuked him with words that cut deeper than any sword. To obey is better than sacrifice. For rebellion is as the sin of divination, and arrogance like the evil of idolatry. Saul had been trained to rule, but when confronted with the will of God, he realized his power was nothing without obedience. He had relied on his own understanding, his own strength, but the very foundation upon which he had built his life began to crumble. How often do we find ourselves in the same position? We trust in what we've been taught, in the skills and knowledge we've accumulated, believing they will carry us forward. But what happens when we are faced with something beyond the scope of our understanding? What happens when we realize that everything we've relied on has only prepared us for one final lesson, that there is something higher than all we have known? Moses, too, faced hesitation before his divine mission. He stood before the burning bush, trembling at the thought of confronting Pharaoh. "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" he asked. The doubt crept in, the hesitation held him back. But God's response was simple, powerful, and absolute. "I will be with you." Even Jesus, the Son of God, knew this moment of hesitation. In the Garden of Gethsemane, the weight of the path before him bore down upon his soul. The suffering, the sacrifice, it was overwhelming. And so, he prayed, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me. Yet not my will, but yours be done." It was not weakness. It was the human soul standing before the divine will, trembling at the enormity of what lay ahead. And now, it is happening to you. You are standing at the threshold of transformation. The old ways, the old beliefs, the old self, they are falling away. The hesitation you feel is not fear. It is the weight of the calling that has been placed upon you. You are being asked to step beyond what you have known, to release the safety of familiarity, and to embrace the path laid before you. Chapter 3. The truth that shatters illusions. The world is not what it seems. The systems that govern it, the structures that shape it, the rulers who claim power over it, none of them hold the authority they believe they do. For centuries, they have built illusions of control, designing institutions, laws, and ideologies meant to shape the minds of the masses. They dictate what is possible and what is not, who will rise and who will fall, who will be heard and who will be silenced. And yet, beneath their carefully constructed world, truth has never been bound by their rules. There is a reason they work so hard to maintain their control. They know that power is fragile, that their influence is only as strong as the belief of those who submit to it. The moment people awaken to the truth, the illusion crumbles. That is why they fear those who cannot be controlled. those whose eyes have been opened, those who see beyond the veil of deception. Think of David standing before Goliath. The world saw a boy small, unarmed, untrained. Goliath, a giant of war, stood towering over him, clad in armor, holding weapons forged for battle. By every earthly standard, David did not stand a chance. But David knew something that Goliath did not. He did not fight with swords or shields. His strength did not come from the weapons of men. Instead, he declared, "You come against me with sword and spear, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty." And with a single stone, the giant fell. This is the truth they do not want you to know. The real power has never belonged to them. It has always belonged to those who walk in faith, to those who understand that divine strength is greater than anything man can build. The same power that was with David is with you. It is the power that delivered Moses, the man who stood against Pharaoh and led his people to freedom. The power that sustained Jesus, who bore the weight of the cross yet conquered death itself. The power that freed Nelson Mandela after 27 years of imprisonment, transforming a prisoner into a president, a symbol of oppression into a symbol of hope. This power is moving through you right now, and that is why they fear you. The world does not understand those who refuse to be controlled. It cannot predict those who do not submit to its rules. So, it seeks to silence them. It buries their names, erases their history, rewrites their stories. It brands them as outcasts, rebels, threats to stability. Because the moment people see the truth, the moment they recognize that they were never truly bound, the entire system collapses. But here is the question. What happens when the thing they tried to suppress refuses to stay hidden? What happens when the voices they silenced begin to rise again? What happens when the truth they buried pushes through the cracks, breaking the foundation of their illusion? They have spent their existence ensuring that the world follows a script, that people stay within the roles assigned to them. But you were never meant to follow their script. They cannot control you. They cannot contain you. And that terrifies them. The giant before you is nothing but a shadow. And just like David, you are armed with something greater than any weapon this world can create. Chapter 4. The Rise of the Chosen Ones. Throughout history, there have always been those who refused to be controlled, those who stood against the forces of oppression, who defied the expectations placed upon them, who refused to surrender to fear. They were not the strongest by worldly standards, nor were they always the most powerful in the eyes of men. But they carried something far greater, an unshakable spirit, a divine calling, and a truth that could not be silenced. Rosa Parks was just one woman, seated on a bus, in a world that told her she had no right to stand against injustice. But with a single act of defiance, refusing to give up her seat, she ignited a revolution. The system had told her she was powerless, yet her courage shattered the illusion of control. The ripple effect of her resistance reached far beyond that moment, proving that when even one person refuses to bow, the entire foundation of oppression begins to shake. Mahatma Gandhi did not fight with weapons. He did not raise an army. Instead, he stood in unwavering truth, choosing nonviolent resistance against the greatest empire of his time. He was beaten, imprisoned, mocked, but he did not break. Through his unrelenting faith and determination, the chains of British rule over India were shattered. The world told him that power belonged to the oppressors, but Gandhi proved that true power comes from the soul that refuses to be conquered. And then there was Jesus Christ, the greatest of them all. He was rejected by the world, mocked by the powerful, and crucified as though he was nothing. But those who sought to destroy him did not understand who they were trying to silence. They believed that nailing him to a cross would be the end of his story. But on the third day, he rose again. He overcame death itself, proving that no force in heaven or on earth could hold him down. And now, it is your turn. You have always known that you do not belong to this world in the way others do. You were never meant to blend in, to be just another part of a broken system. You were meant to rise above it. The forces of this world will tell you that you must obey, that you must conform, that you must accept their version of reality. But that is the greatest lie ever told. You were not created to fit into their mold. You were created to break it. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. You were born to be unstoppable. The world may try to contain you, but it cannot. The systems of control may try to silence you, but your voice will only grow louder. The forces of darkness may try to chain you, but you will break free. The rise of the chosen ones has begun, and nothing can stand in your way. This is the moment where everything changes. The hesitation is over. The waiting has ended. The truth has been revealed, and now your spirit stirs with certainty. You have always known there was something greater, a higher calling, a deeper truth, a purpose waiting to be fulfilled. Now, that moment has arrived. Your true home awaits. Your real family is here. Your destiny is calling, and heaven itself rejoices as you step forward. You were never meant to walk alone. The chosen ones rise together, bound not by the system. Listen, chosen ones. This is not just another message. This is not for the masses. This is not for those who take God's voice lightly. This is for the remnant, the warriors, the ones who have been marked by the hand of God. This is for those who understand that when God speaks, it is no ordinary word. It is life. It is power. It is a force that shifts realities. When God speaks, He does not speak in vain. Every word He utters carries purpose, authority, and divine weight. His words carve destinies. They open doors that no man can shut. They bring deliverance to the captive, healing to the broken, and judgment to those who reject them. Maybe you have been living beneath your true power. Maybe you have walked through life as if you are just another person, weak, ordinary, afraid. But what if I told you the power you have been waiting for is already inside you? What if I told you that from the moment you gave your life to Christ, you were never meant to live in fear? You were never meant to be weak, powerless, or unsure. You were created to walk in dominion. You were designed to trample on serpents and scorpions, to cast out demons, to break chains, to shift atmospheres, to carry fire. But somewhere along the way, the enemy convinced you that you were powerless, that you were just another believer, another person in the crowd. He whispered lies into your ears, telling you that you are not enough, that you are too small, too broken, too unqualified. But today, those lies break, because God is saying, activate your power, now. Not tomorrow, not next year, not when you feel ready. It's now. Because here is the truth. The enemy is not waiting for you to be ready before he attacks. He is not waiting for you to feel strong before he launches his warfare against you. He is not waiting for you to understand your power before he moves against you. He has already declared war on you. The only question is, will you fight back? For too long, too many believers have been asleep, drifting through life as if they are powerless, waiting for a sign, waiting for a breakthrough, waiting for God to move when He has already given them everything they need. The battlefield of life is filled with warriors who have forgotten their strength, soldiers who have laid down their weapons, and chosen ones who are living as if they are ordinary. But the time for waiting is over. The time for silence is over. It is time to wake up. It is time to rise. Do you not realize who you are? Do you not understand what has been placed inside you? You were not created to live in fear. You were not designed to bow to the enemy's schemes. You were never meant to be weak, defeated, or unsure. The Spirit of the living God dwells within you, the same power that raised Jesus from the dead, the same power that split the Red Sea, the same power that made fire fall from heaven. That power is inside you, but power that is not activated remains dormant. A sword that is never wielded is useless in battle. A voice that is never raised cannot command authority. A warrior who refuses to fight is already defeated. And yet, so many chosen ones walk through life as if they have no dominion, as if they have no authority, as if the enemy is stronger than they are. But today, that deception is shattered. Today, the veil is torn. Today, the lie that tells you that you are weak, insignificant, or unqualified is destroyed. You have been chosen. You have been called. You have been anointed. The only question is, will you step into your power? Will you shake off the chains of doubt, fear, and hesitation? Will you rise as the warrior God created you to be? The enemy is not waiting to attack until you feel strong. He is not waiting for you to gain confidence before he moves against you. He has already declared war on you. The question is, will you fight back? Or will you continue to sit in fear, hoping for relief, waiting for someone else to step into the battle that is yours to fight? The time for hesitation is over. The time for passivity has come to an end. The kingdom of darkness is advancing, and heaven is calling for warriors to take their stand. Will you be one of them? It is time to wake up from spiritual slumber. It is time to stop making excuses. It is time to stop believing the lie that you are powerless. You have been given authority to use it. You have been given weapons to wield them. You have been given a divine assignment. Step into it. The world is waiting. The kingdom is calling. The enemy is trembling. The world has its own definition of power. It tells you that power is found in wealth, status, influence, and control. It teaches that power belongs to the rich, the famous, and those who hold political authority. It glorifies dominance, manipulation, and self-exaltation. But the power of this world is fleeting. It is fragile. It can be taken away in an instant. True power, the kind that cannot be shaken, the kind that transforms lives, the kind that moves mountains, is spiritual. It is not found in titles or possessions. It does not come from human effort. It is not built on connections or material gain. True power comes from God alone. Jesus made this clear when he spoke to his disciples. Behold, I give unto you power to tread on serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you. This is not just a comforting verse, it is a declaration of war. It is a divine reminder that the power we carry is not natural, it is supernatural. It did not originate from us, it was given to us by God himself. And this power is not weak or limited. Jesus did not say he gave us power over some of the enemy's schemes. He did not say we would have authority over a portion of the darkness. He said, I give you power over all the power of the enemy. That means there is no demonic attack, no stronghold, no spiritual resistance that is greater than the authority Christ has given us. Yet why do so many believers live as though they are powerless? Why do those who have been called to reign in life walk around like victims? It is because power that is not activated remains dormant. You can be given a sword, but if you never wield it, you will still be defenseless. You can be given the keys to a kingdom, but if you never use them, you will still live like a slave. You can be crowned as royalty, but if you never step onto the throne, you will still live as a beggar. Many believers have been given divine power, but they are not walking in it. They have been handed spiritual authority, but they are not using it. The enemy is not stronger than them. He has simply convinced them that they are weak. But today, that deception is broken. The power of God is not just about performing miracles or casting out demons. It is about walking in divine authority in every area of life. It is the power to break generational curses. It is the power to shift atmospheres. It is the power to speak of life where there was once death, to bring healing where there was once pain, to release hope where there was once despair. It is the power to stand firm when everything around you is shaking. It is the power to trample over every attack of the enemy without fear. And this power is not reserved for a select few. It is not just for pastors, prophets, or church leaders. It is for every believer who chooses to walk in faith. But power must be activated. God will not force you to use the authority he has given you. He will not make you walk in your divine assignment. He has already provided everything you need. The question is, will you step into it? Will you stop waiting for power to come from the outside when God has already placed it within you? Will you rise up and use the weapons that heaven has given you? The enemy is not afraid of passive Christians. He is not threatened by those who simply believe in Jesus, but never act on his word. But the moment you recognize the power inside of you, the moment you choose to walk in the authority that Christ has given, everything changes. Darkness trembles. Chains break. The impossible becomes possible. So I ask you again, what is real power? It is not found in the world. It is not given by men. Real power comes from God. And if you are in Christ, that power is already inside you. If God has given us power, if he has declared that we have authority over all the power of the enemy, if he has assured us that nothing shall by any means hurt us, then why do so many believers live in fear? Why do those who have been chosen to reign walk through life feeling weak, afraid, and powerless? The answer is simple. Fear is a deception. It is the enemy's most effective weapon because it does not have to be real to control you. It only has to be believed. Fear is a lie whispered into your mind until you accept it as truth. It tells you that you are too weak to fight. It tells you that you are unqualified, unworthy, and incapable. It convinces you that stepping out in faith will lead to failure, that speaking with authority will bring rejection, that walking in power will invite too much opposition. Fear is not just an emotion. It is a strategy from the pits of hell designed to keep you bound. Because the moment you realize that the power inside you is greater than anything coming against you, the enemy loses control over your life. Many believers live in fear because they have forgotten who they are. They see themselves as small, as insignificant, as ordinary, when in reality, they are warriors. They have been given spiritual weapons, but they do not use them. They have been granted divine authority, but they do not exercise it. They have been crowned as sons and daughters of the Most High, but they still live as if they are slaves. The truth is, the enemy does not attack people who are weak. He attacks those who are dangerous. The reason you face so much spiritual warfare is not because you are powerless, but because you are powerful. The enemy sees your potential. He knows the damage you will cause to his kingdom the moment you step into your divine authority. And his greatest fear is that you will wake up and realize who you truly are. But today, fear is broken. The chains that have held you back are shattered. The lie that says you are not strong enough, not bold enough, not spiritual enough, it is destroyed. You were never meant to live in fear. You were created to walk in power, love, and a sound mind. It is time to silence the voice of fear. It is time to reject every lie the enemy has spoken over your life. It is time to stand firm in the authority that God has given you. Fear has held you back for too long. It has stolen your confidence, silenced your voice, and kept you from stepping into the fullness of your calling. But no more. The time for hesitation is over. The time for second guessing is done. You have been given power, and it is time to use it. The enemy is trembling because he knows that once you activate your authority, nothing will be able to stop you. Power is not something that simply exists within you, it must be activated. You can have access to electricity, but if you never flip the switch, you will remain in darkness. You can hold a sword, but if you never raise it, you will still be defenseless. Many believers have been given divine authority, yet they walk through life as if they have none, simply because they have not activated the power that God has already placed inside them. The question is not whether you have power. The question is whether you are using it. The first key to activating your power is faith. Faith is the foundation upon which all spiritual authority is built. If you do not believe you have power, you will never use it. The enemy knows this, which is why his first attack is always on your mind. He wants to convince you that you are weak, that you are ordinary, that you are incapable. But Jesus made it clear. These signs shall follow them that believe. Not those who wait, not those who doubt, those who believe. The moment you believe in the authority God has given you, fear loses its grip, and power begins to flow through you. The second key is prayer. Prayer is not just a religious ritual. It is a supernatural transaction. It is your direct access to heaven's power. A prayerless believer is a powerless believer. If you are not praying, you are sitting on your authority, allowing the enemy to advance unchecked. Every great move of God in Scripture began with prayer. Before Jesus performed miracles, he prayed. Before the Holy Spirit descended at Pentecost, the disciples prayed. Before Paul and Silas broke free from prison, they prayed. Prayer is not just communication with God. It is the battlefield where power is released. If you want to walk in authority, you must commit yourself to a life of prayer. The third key is obedience. Power follows obedience. Many believers are waiting for power to manifest before they move, but God is waiting for them to move before he releases power. When Moses stretched out his staff, the Red Sea parted. When Peter stepped out of the boat, he walked on water. When the Israelites marched around Jericho, the walls fell. Power does not fall from the sky. It is activated when you step into it. If God tells you to move, move. If he tells you to speak, speak. If he tells you to take a step of faith, take it. Fear says, wait until you feel ready. Faith says, move, and God will show his power. The power of God is already inside you. You do not need to beg for it. You do not need to wait for a special moment to receive it. It has already been given. The only question is, will you activate it? Will you flip the switch, pick up your weapons, and walk in the authority that is already yours? The enemy is hoping you stay passive. He wants you to remain silent. He wants you to doubt. But today, you break free. Today, you activate your power. The enemy is attacking you because he sees the warrior inside you. He knows what you will become if you ever step into your full authority. He knows the chains that will be broken. He knows the fire that will be released. The only thing standing between you and your power is fear. But today, fear breaks. No more hesitation. No more waiting. No more delay. Now is the time. Now is the moment. Activate your power. Activate the notification bell. Subscribe now and type, "I am ready," in the comments. Let's shake the kingdom of darkness together. Let's pray. In the shadows of unspoken truths, you stood alone. Your pain was witnessed, yet met with silence, a silence louder than words, an echo of empty promises and averted gazes. Those who should have defended you, those who vowed loyalty, choose comfort over courage. They turned away, retreating to safety while you faced the storm, stripped of allies, left to navigate the darkness on your own. They heard your cries but covered their ears. They knew the truth but sealed their lips. They watched from a distance as you struggled, hoping you would fall. Yet here you are, standing, breathing, victorious. Not because of them, but in spite of them. This triumph is yours and yours alone. Forged in resilience, tempered in solitude, polished by the very tears they pretended not to see. This moment isn't just about overcoming obstacles. It's about becoming someone unshakable. Every step you took without support, every battle you fought alone, every scar you wear with pride, each one is proof that they were never the reason for your success. You were. And now the world that watched you suffer in silence will watch you rise in undeniable power. When God calls you higher, the journey is never easy. Elevation is not a gift handed to you in comfort. It is a transformation that comes through fire. You may have wondered why you faced seasons of isolation, why familiar hands withdrew, why the very people you trusted seemed to disappear when you needed them most. But this was not rejection. It was divine selection. The first thing God does when he chooses you is separate you to protect you. That isolation you felt, it wasn't punishment. It wasn't abandonment. It was a shield. You were not left alone. You were pulled away from those who would have drained your energy, sabotaged your destiny, or diluted your purpose. There were people in your life who could not go where you were meant to go. People whose presence was a silent weight on your spirit. You may not have understood it then, but God saw what you couldn't. He saw the conversations that took place behind closed doors. He saw the silent envy in their hearts. He saw the betrayals before they happened. And in His mercy, He removed you before their presence could do irreversible damage. Next, He strips away human reliance to strengthen your faith. Every support system you once leaned on seemed to vanish. Every person you thought you could count on disappeared, and you were left standing in what felt like emptiness. But this was not by accident. It was preparation. He needed you to learn that your true source of strength was never in people, never in connections, never in external validation. It was in Him. You had to be stripped of every crutch so that you would learn to lean solely on divine provision. In your darkest hours, when no human hand reached out to steady you, you discovered a power beyond yourself, a wisdom no classroom could teach. You learned that the only foundation that could not be shaken was the one built on faith. And then He reveals your true identity. You are not ordinary. You were never meant to fit in, never meant to blend into the background. You are among the 144,000 chosen ones, not marked for ease but for transformation, not selected for comfort, but for impact. This is why the shift within you has been undeniable. The way you see the world has changed. The way you move through life has changed. And whether they admit it or not, the people around you feel it too. Have you noticed how people seem uneasy in your presence now? How does their energy shift when you walk into a room? It is not your imagination. It is spiritual reality. They sense something they cannot name, an authority upon you that they do not understand. Your existence forces them to confront their own weaknesses. Your resilience is a mirror in which they see their own compromises. Your strength exposes their stagnation, and that is why they distance themselves. But their discomfort is not your burden to carry. Their intimidation is not your failure. It is confirmation of your elevation. You were not chosen to be accepted. You were chosen to stand apart, to break cycles, to shift atmospheres, to carry something so powerful that it could not be entrusted to just anyone. And now, as you step into your true calling, understand this. The separation was necessary. The stripping away was preparation. And the power you now carry is evidence that you have been set apart for something greater. The betrayal that shook you, the one you never saw coming, was never an accident. It was always meant to happen. Not as a punishment, but as a revelation. It was written into the story of your elevation long before it unfolded in your life. You may have questioned why it had to hurt so deeply, why those you trusted the most turned against you. But the truth is, their betrayal was never about you. It was about them. Think back to the moments of unease, the quiet warnings, the subtle instincts you brushed aside, that lingering discomfort you once dismissed as paranoia. It wasn't your mind playing tricks on you. It was divine foresight. God was whispering, preparing you for what your heart wasn't yet ready to accept. You felt the energy shift long before the masks finally fell. You saw glimpses of their true nature, but you wanted to believe otherwise. You gave them grace. You justified their actions. You held on to the illusion that they cared as deeply as you did. But the same people who smiled the widest in your presence were the ones crafting your downfall behind closed doors. The hands that reached out in support were the same hands digging pits along your path. Some betrayed you out of jealousy, others out of fear. Your growth made their stagnation unbearable. Your authenticity exposed the deception they had carefully constructed. Your light made their shadows impossible to ignore. And so, they turned against you, not because you did anything wrong, but because your very existence was a threat to the lies they lived. And for some, their betrayal went beyond whispers and deceit. Money changed hands. There were conversations you weren't privy to, deals made at your expense. Your reputation was deliberately targeted. Opportunities were blocked before you even knew they existed. This was not casual disloyalty, it was calculated, planned, coordinated. They didn't just hope you would fall. They actively worked to make it happen. But what they failed to understand is what is divinely ordained can never be humanly obstructed. They were stopping you, but they were strengthening you. Their rejection would break you, but it clarified your direction. Every scheme they plotted only positioned you for something greater. Every loss they orchestrated became fuel for your elevation. Their betrayal did not destroy you, it defined you. And now, as they watch from the sidelines, their jealousy-fueled schemes are unraveling. The alliances they built on deception are crumbling beneath them. The very traps they set for you are now catching their own feet. Because that is the law of the universe. What they sowed, they will reap. As for you, you will walk into a season of divine vindication, not by seeking revenge, not by proving them wrong, but by rising so high that their betrayal becomes irrelevant. What was meant to break you has only built you. What was designed to silence you has only amplified your voice. And what was the end of your story was merely the beginning of a chapter they were never meant to be part of. Few will ever understand the depth of what you've endured. To most, your struggles seemed like ordinary obstacles, just another set of challenges that everyone faces in life. But you know the truth. This was never just about hardship. It was about opposition. It was about forces that deliberately worked against you, people who moved in silence, plotting ways to keep you from rising. They didn't just resist you. They organized against you. There were conversations held in secret, alliances formed behind your back, deliberate attempts to suppress your voice. Every time you tried to step forward, there was resistance, too consistent, too calculated to be mere coincidence. Doors closed without reason. Opportunities disappeared before you even knew they existed. People turned on you for no logical explanation. You weren't imagining it. The moment you began walking in your true purpose, the opposition intensified. But tell me, what weapon can prosper against someone divinely shielded? What scheme can succeed against someone celestially supported? Not a single one. They underestimated the power that was backing you. They moved in secrecy, thinking their schemes would go unnoticed. They thought their numbers, their influence, their strategies would be enough to stop you. But what they failed to realize is that you were never standing alone. The same power that spoke the universe into existence is the same power that has been working on your behalf. The same God who parted the seas, who shut the mouths of lions, who raised the dead, He is the one standing behind you. They weren't just fighting against you. They were fighting against divine will. And no force, no strategy, no earthly alliance can stand against what God has ordained. And now, the tables are turning. The narrative is shifting. The storm is breaking. Everything they would destroy you has only refined you. Every attempt to silence you has only made your voice stronger. Every obstacle they placed in your way has become a stepping stone for your ascension. They spent so much time crafting your downfall that they never prepared for the possibility of your rise. But here you are, still standing, still breathing, still rising. And now, as they watch in disbelief, they will come to understand what they refused to acknowledge all along. You were never meant to be defeated. The very moment they would be your destruction has become the platform for your breakthrough. What was meant to bury you has instead planted you, and now you are growing beyond their reach. You don't need to fight them. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to seek revenge. Just keep rising. Because their resistance was never greater than God's protection. Their plans were never stronger than His purpose. And their schemes? They were never enough to stop what was already divinely written. They had taken something from you. They thought they had stripped you of what was rightfully yours and left you with nothing. But what they failed to understand is that the universe, under divine order, keeps perfect accounts. Nothing that was unjustly taken from you is ever truly lost. Nothing that was stolen will remain in the hands of those who took it. What was removed from your life, whether by force or deception, was never beyond God's reach. He saw the betrayals, the sabotage, the unfair losses. He witnessed every tear, every moment of despair when you thought you had been robbed of something you could never recover. And yet, what you thought was taken permanently is already on its way back to you, not just returned, but multiplied beyond measure. That opportunity that slipped through your fingers, it will come back tenfold. The job, the position, the dream you thought had been stolen from you, it was never truly gone. It was simply being realigned to return to you in a way that exceeds what you originally imagined. God does not restore in equal measure. He restores in overflow. That relationship that ended, the one you thought was destined to last, the one you mourned for longer than you should have. It was never meant to carry the weight of your destiny. If it had stayed, it would have hindered your growth. If they had remained, they would have become a limitation rather than a blessing. God does not remove people from your life without reason. If they walked away, if they betrayed you, if the bond dissolved, it was because He saw something you couldn't, and what He has prepared for you in the future will make you realize why that chapter had to close. That door that shut so abruptly, it wasn't rejection, it was redirection. You may have questioned why certain paths were blocked, why you faced so many obstacles, why no matter how hard you pushed, nothing seemed to work. But what if I told you that God was not keeping something from you, but preparing something for you? The delay was divine. The redirection was intentional. The setback was never a denial. It was a setup for something greater. But what they didn't realize is that in trying to steal from you, they only sealed their own fate. What they thought was your loss has become your gain. What they meant for harm has become fuel for your rise. This is not the end. This is the beginning. A new season is unfolding before you, one where restoration comes not in equal measure, but in abundance. One where what was stolen is returned in ways that leave no doubt about divine intervention. One where every tear you cried becomes the foundation for a future so great, it will silence every voice that ever doubted you. Keep moving forward, because what is meant for you can never truly be lost. It is simply waiting to return, multiplied, magnified, and more powerful than before. Listen carefully. You must forgive, not for them, not because they deserve it, not because what they did was excusable. You must forgive because you deserve to be free. Holding on to resentment is like carrying a heavy chain, one that keeps you tethered to the very people who sought to harm you. The longer you hold on, the more they remain connected to your spirit. Their actions may be in the past, but as long as you keep replaying the pain, their influence lingers in your present. Unforgiveness is not a punishment for them. It is a prison for you. But here's the truth. You were never meant to be bound by pain. Forgiveness does not mean excusing what they did. It does not mean pretending that it didn't hurt. It does not mean giving them another place in your life. It means cutting the cord. It means reclaiming your energy, your peace, and your future. Because as long as bitterness remains, it poisons everything it touches. It clouds your vision. It steals your joy. It keeps you from fully embracing what is ahead. But when you forgive, you take back your power. You are not erasing the past. You are choosing to stop letting it define you. You are not letting them off the hook. You are simply refusing to let their actions control your emotions any longer. They will answer for what they've done. The universe will balance the scales. Justice will come in its own time, in its own way. That is not your burden to carry. Your only task is to move forward. And moving forward means leaving their weight behind. It means walking into your future without dragging the chains of yesterday. It means choosing healing over hatred, peace over pain, and freedom over the illusion of control. Forgiveness is not a gift you give to them. It is a gift you give to yourself. So let it go because you do. Let it rise, not in arrogance, but in assurance. Rise, not in vengeance, but in vision. Rise, not in bitterness, but in boldness. Because the world is waiting, and you have work to do. Thank you for watching until the very end. Your journey is just beginning, and we're walking it together. If this message spoke to you, like this video, subscribe, and join this growing community of warriors. Let's rise together, stronger, bolder, and unstoppable. See you in the next one. Chosen ones, hear me. What I am about to share with you is not just another message. This is a divine revelation, a word you cannot afford to ignore. If you are here right now, it is not by coincidence. God Himself has led you to this moment because He knows this message is meant for you. Everything I am about to tell you is not my own wisdom. It is a divine instruction from the Almighty. The Word of God is alive, sharper than any two-edged sword. It carries the power to break chains, open doors, and lead you into your destiny. So listen closely. What you are about to hear has the power to transform your life forever. The Word of God is not just ink on paper. It breathes, it moves, it transforms. It is the same Word that spoke light into the darkness at the beginning of time. The same Word that healed the sick, raised the dead, and calmed the raging storms. And today, that same Word is coming to you, to breathe life into every dry place in your soul, to shatter every chain that has held you back, and to realign you with the purpose God set for you before the foundation of the world. So do not harden your heart. Do not let distractions steal this moment. Because when God speaks, mountains bow, demons tremble, and the heavens open. Right now, in this very moment, He is speaking directly to you. Will you listen? Will you receive it? I urge you, silence every distraction and open your heart. Receive this word with expectation, because when God speaks, everything changes. And today, change is coming to you. Have you ever found yourself asking, why is my life so difficult? Why does it feel like every burden is placed on my shoulders? Why am I constantly fighting battles that others seem to avoid? You look around and see people living with ease, seemingly untouched by the storms that rage around you. While others walk freely, you are carrying a weight so heavy that at times it feels unbearable. You struggle, you sacrifice, and you pour into others, yet you often feel unappreciated and unseen. You wonder why it always has to be you, the one who figures things out, the one who stands in the gap, the one who bears the weight of responsibility while others seem to drift through life without a care. Let me tell you why. Because you were chosen. You were never meant to walk an ordinary path. You were never meant to have an easy life. God has set you apart for something greater, and that greatness comes with a price. You are not just here to survive. You are here to build, to sustain, to multiply, and to establish something that will outlast you. That is why your battles are greater. That is why your storms are more intense. That is why the enemy has fought so hard to break you, because he knows the calling on your life is too powerful to be ignored. The struggles you face are not random. They are a necessary preparation. God is not punishing you. He is building you. Look at the foundation of a house. If the walls crack, they can be repaired. If the roof leaks, it can be fixed. But if the foundation is weak, the entire house will collapse. That is why your journey has been different, because you are a foundation. A family, a community, even a nation cannot stand without strong foundations, and you are one of those pillars. That is why you have endured rejection, isolation, and betrayal. That is why you have fought battles in silence while others remained oblivious. Because God is making you strong. Weak people cannot carry great responsibilities. Shallow people cannot uphold generations. Easily shaken people cannot be trusted with divine assignments. And so God has allowed you to be tested, refined, and molded into someone unshakable. When you look at the lives of those called by God, you will see the same pattern. Joseph was betrayed and thrown into a pit before he reached the palace. Moses was rejected and forced into the wilderness before he led Israel to freedom. David was hunted like a fugitive before he took his rightful place on the throne. Even Jesus himself, the Son of God, was despised, rejected, and abandoned in his darkest hour. Their struggles were not punishments, they were preparations. And your struggles are no different. The weight is heavy because the assignment is great. You are not just anyone. You are called. You are chosen. And if God has entrusted you with this burden, He has also given you the strength to carry it. Do not despise your battles. They are shaping you into the leader, the protector, the foundation that God designed you to be. Your hardship is not the end of your story. It is the preparation for something greater than you can imagine. When we think of a breadwinner, the world often defines it as someone who provides financially for their family. But in God's eyes, a true breadwinner is much more than just a provider of money and material needs. They are sustainers, multipliers, and preservers of destinies. They do not merely survive. They build, prepare, and ensure that what is entrusted to them is not only maintained but multiplied for future generations. One of the greatest biblical examples of a true breadwinner is Joseph. His story is not just about survival. It is about divine strategy, wisdom, and stewardship that saved not only a nation, but also the generations that followed. Joseph was betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. Yet through all of this, God was shaping him, preparing him for the moment when he would rise to become a leader who would sustain millions. During the years of abundance in Egypt, Joseph did not waste what he had. He stored it, managed it wisely, and prepared for the famine that was to come. Tells us that when the famine struck, while other lands suffered in lack, Egypt had food because of Joseph's foresight and divine wisdom. He did not just think about the present, he thought generationally. He did not just provide for his family, he positioned himself to sustain entire nations. This is what separates a mere provider from a true breadwinner. A provider gives what is needed for today. A breadwinner builds so that others will not lack tomorrow. Joseph's journey teaches us 3 critical lessons about what it means to be a true breadwinner. First, preparation is key. Breadwinners do not live just for the moment. They prepare for the future. Joseph did not wait until the famine came to act. He made strategic decisions long before the crisis arrived. Second, breadwinners know how to manage resources wisely. They are not wasteful, nor are they reckless. They recognize that what they have is not just for them, but for those they are called to sustain. Third, true breadwinners multiply. Joseph did not merely ensure survival. He used wisdom and divine strategy to turn a crisis into an opportunity for abundance. His leadership did not just feed people for a season, it preserved generations. This is your calling. You are not meant to live in survival mode, constantly struggling just to get by. You are meant to thrive, multiply, and build a legacy that will impact those who come after you. Like Joseph, God has placed in you the ability to create, sustain, and expand. But with that ability comes a responsibility to steward it wisely, to manage it with diligence, and to trust that God will provide the strength and wisdom needed to fulfill your assignment. What will you do with what God has given you? Will you merely survive, or will you rise as a true breadwinner, a foundation upon which generations can stand? The choice is yours. There are moments in life when the burdens we carry feel too heavy to bear. The pressures of responsibility, the weight of expectations, and the struggles that seem unending can leave us feeling exhausted and overwhelmed. In these moments, it's easy to wonder if we have the strength to continue. We question whether we're capable of handling everything that life throws our way. The nights feel longer, the days feel harder, and the hope that once burned brightly seems to flicker. But even in the heaviest moments, we are not alone. Throughout the Bible, we see countless examples of people who carried immense burdens. Moses, tasked with leading an entire nation through the wilderness. David, pursued by enemies while clinging to God's promises. Paul, imprisoned and beaten, yet steadfast in his faith. Yet in every struggle, God provided strength. He reminded them that they were never meant to carry their burdens alone. Jesus himself extended an invitation to the weary, saying, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." This promise is not just for those in the past, it is for us today. When the weight feels unbearable, we must remember that we were never designed to carry it by ourselves. God invites us to lay our worries at His feet, to trust that He is strong enough to sustain us. This does not mean our struggles will instantly disappear, but it does mean we are held by a God who walks with us through every storm. Instead of relying on our own strength, we can lean on His. Instead of being crushed by our burdens, we can surrender them to the one who has already overcome the world. So if you find yourself weary, take heart. You are not alone, and you are not forgotten. The same God who strengthened Moses, guided David, and upheld Paul is holding you too. Lay your burdens before Him and allow His peace to fill the places where fear and exhaustion once lived. The weight may be heavy, but His grace is always greater. Carrying the weight of your calling can feel overwhelming, but it is not meant to break you. It is meant to shape you. One of the first steps to walking in your calling without crumbling under its weight is to stop seeing yourself as a victim. Challenges will come, but they are not meant to destroy you. They are meant to refine you. Instead of asking, "Why me?" Зрение. Сдвиньте перспективу и спросите, «Господь, как я должен распоряжаться этим хорошо?» Every difficulty is an opportunity for growth, and every hardship is shaping you into the person God has called you to be. Another key to sustaining your calling is understanding that you cannot pour from an empty cup. Even Jesus, who carried the greatest mission of all, regularly withdrew to pray. Taking time to recharge is not a sign of weakness, it is wisdom. When you prioritize your spiritual and emotional well-being, you are better equipped to fulfill your calling with endurance and joy. Beyond thinking about today, you must also think generationally. Proverbs 13:22 reminds us that a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. Your calling is not just about you, it is about those who will come after you. What you build today will impact future generations. Whether through your faith, your obedience, or the legacy you leave, your calling is part of a much bigger picture. Keeping this perspective will help you persevere when challenges arise. At times, you will be misunderstood. This is a reality that even great biblical leaders faced. Joseph was despised by his own brothers. David's family doubted his ability. Jesus himself was rejected in his hometown. Not everyone will understand your calling, and that is okay. You do not need validation from everyone, only faithfulness to the one who called you. Above all, remember that God is your ultimate source. You are not the one who sustains your calling. He is. Philippians 4:19 assures us that God will supply all your needs according to His riches and glory. You do not have to carry this weight alone. Surrender your burdens, trust in His provision, and walk forward with confidence, knowing that He who called you is faithful to sustain you. Heavenly Father, I come before you today, lifting up every person listening to this message, every man, every woman who carries the weight of provision for their family. Lord, you see their struggles, their silent prayers, and the burdens they carry. Many are weary, many feel overwhelmed, but you are their strength, their refuge, and their provider. Right now, in the mighty name of Jesus, I declare a breakthrough over their lives. Father, I pray that every chain of struggle be broken. Let every spirit of heaviness be lifted, and every financial burden be overturned. You are Jehovah Jireh, our provider, and I trust that you are already making a way where there seems to be no way. No attack of the enemy will prosper against them, for you are their shield and defender. Strengthen them, Lord, not just physically but emotionally and spiritually. Fill their hearts with peace and their minds with clarity. Let them know that they are not alone in this journey. Pour out supernatural provision, divine favor, and unexpected blessings over their lives. Open doors of opportunity, multiply the work of their hands, and guide them in wisdom as they steward their resources. Let them walk in victory, prosperity, and the fullness of their divine purpose. May they never forget that they are not just providing for their families. They are laying a foundation of faith, perseverance, and legacy. And Lord, I thank you for them. Thank you for their sacrifices, their love, and their dedication. May they feel seen, valued, and appreciated, not just by their families, but by you, the one who rewards those who trust in you. I declare over them today, they are chosen, they are covered, they are victorious. In Jesus' mighty name, Amen. If this word spoke to you, let's subscribe, share, and sow into this mission, because you are not just a breadwinner, you are a history maker. God bless you. This is not just another message. It is a divine appointment. If you have clicked on this video, it is not by accident. You were led here for a reason. Something deep within you has been stirring, a call, a whisper, a pull towards something greater. Perhaps you can't explain it, but you feel it. A longing, a knowing, an urgency that won't go away. The world around you moves forward as if nothing is happening, as if everything is just the way it's always been. But you know better. You see what others ignore. You sense what most dismiss. You have always been different. Maybe you've spent years searching for answers, feeling out of place, unable to shake the feeling that there is more. More to this life, more to your purpose, more than what you've been told. Or maybe deep inside, you've always known that you were meant for something bigger. This message is for the chosen ones. And if you are one of them, you will feel it. But let me be clear, it is not for everyone. Most will scroll past. Some will dismiss these words without a second thought. Many will feel the pull but will be too afraid to answer. But not you, because something inside you won't let you turn away. If your heart is beating a little faster, if your spirit is stirring, if something within you is whispering, "This is for me," then stay. Because you were meant to hear this. It is an awakening message, a reminder of who you really are. The world has tried to silence you, to make you doubt yourself, to convince you that you are just like everyone else. But the truth is, you were never meant to fit in. You were meant to rise, to awaken, to walk in the fullness of your calling. Now, the time has come. This is your confirmation. You are not here by mistake. You are here because God is calling you, and what you're about to hear will change everything. Chapter 1. The Invisible War. We are at war. Not the kind that can be seen with human eyes, not a battle fought with guns and armies, but a war far older, far greater, and far more dangerous. This is a spiritual war, a battle waged in the unseen realm, where forces of darkness seek to control, deceive, and destroy. Most people don't realize it's happening. They move through life unaware, distracted by the noise of the world, convinced that their struggles are purely physical, bad luck, misfortune, coincidence. But you see more. You feel it. You have sensed the weight pressing down on your soul, the constant battles in your mind, the fear, the doubt, the exhaustion that seems to drain you even when you're standing still. This is not just life. This is war. And whether you realize it or not, you are already on the battlefield. The enemy does not want you to know this. He wants you blind, distracted, preoccupied with the temporary things of this world. Because the moment you wake up to the reality of this war, you become a threat. Ephesians 6:12 tells us, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." This war is not against people. It is against forces of darkness, ancient entities that have worked behind the scenes for centuries, manipulating systems, controlling minds, spreading lies. They operate through fear, through deception, through carefully crafted illusions designed to keep you powerless. But the moment you recognize the battle, everything changes. You begin to see the enemy's tactics for what they are. The anxiety that tries to paralyze you, it is an attack. The depression that whispers lies into your mind, telling you that you are not enough, it is a strategy. The constant cycle of fear, failure, and doubt that seems impossible to escape? It is not random. The good news? You were never meant to fight this battle alone. God has not left you defenseless. He has given you weapons. He has given you armor. He has given you the authority to stand against the darkness and win. You were not created to live in fear. You were created to overcome. And today, right now, you take your first step onto the battlefield, not as a victim, not as someone barely surviving, but as a warrior. The war is real, but so is your victory. Chapter 2. The lies that have kept you bound for too long. You have been living under the weight of lies. Lies that have shaped your thoughts, controlled your actions, and kept you from stepping into the fullness of who you were created to be. You may not have even realized it, but a war has been waged against your mind, and the enemy's greatest weapon has never been chains or prisons. It has always been deception. From the moment you were born, the enemy has whispered lies into your soul, working tirelessly to keep you bound. He has told you that you are not enough, that you are too broken, too weak, too flawed to ever be used by God. He has convinced you that your past disqualifies you, that your mistakes define you, that you will never be truly free. Over time, you started to believe it. You looked at your reflection and saw only failure. You carried shame like a weight on your back, believing it was your burden to bear. You accepted fear as part of your identity, thinking you would never escape its grip. But none of that was ever true. The enemy doesn't attack what isn't valuable. The fact that he has worked so hard to keep you bound is proof of how powerful you truly are. If you weren't a threat, he wouldn't need to silence you. If you weren't called for something greater, he wouldn't work so hard to make you doubt yourself. But now, the lies are being exposed. The Word of God tells us in John 8:44 that the devil is a liar and the father of lies. Everything he has ever spoken over you was meant to keep you from the truth. Here is the truth. You are not weak. You have been given strength beyond what you can imagine. Isaiah 40:31 says, "But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." You are not alone. God has never abandoned you, even in your darkest moments. Deuteronomy 31:8 promises, "The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you, nor forsake you." You are not a failure. Your past does not define you. 2 Corinthians 5:17 declares, "If anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old has gone. The new is here." For too long, the enemy has tried to rewrite your identity. But today, that ends. Today, you take back what has been stolen. You break free from the lies. When fear tells you that you are not enough, remind yourself who your God is. When shame tries to keep you silent, declare that you are forgiven, redeemed, and set free. When doubt creeps in, hold on to the unshakable truth that you were created for more. Because the lies may have kept you bound for a season, but the truth will set you free forever. Chapter 3. Equipped for battle. You were never meant to live in fear. You were never meant to be powerless. From the moment you were called, you were equipped for battle. The enemy has spent years trying to convince you that you are weak, that you are defenseless against the attacks that come against your mind, your heart, your life. He wants you to believe that you are alone in this fight, that you have no weapons, that you must simply endure the struggles and hope they pass. But that is another lie. Because the truth is this: God has given you armor. He has provided everything you need to stand firm against the forces of darkness and win. Ephesians 6:10-11 declares, "Be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on the full armor of God, so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes." You are not stepping into this battle unarmed. You are stepping in fully equipped. Number 1. The belt of truth, the foundation of your strength. The first piece of armor is truth. The enemy is a deceiver. and his primary weapon is lies. If he can distort your perception of reality, if he can make you believe falsehoods about yourself, about your purpose, about God, then he can weaken you before the battle even begins. When you wear the belt of truth, you stand firm. God's word becomes your foundation. You recognize the lies for what they are, and you refuse to let them take root in your heart. John 8:32 says, "You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." Truth exposes deception. It brings clarity where there was confusion. It allows you to stand unshaken, even when the world tries to convince you otherwise. Number 2, the breastplate of righteousness, your divine protection. A soldier's breastplate protects the heart, the most vital organ. In the spiritual realm, your heart is the center of your emotions, your faith, your desires. The enemy knows that if he can corrupt your heart, filling it with fear, shame, or guilt, he can weaken your spirit. But God has given you righteousness as your defense. Not your own righteousness, but the righteousness of Christ. When you accept this, you no longer have to live in shame. You are covered, protected, secured in God's love. 2 Corinthians 5:21 declares, "God made him who had no sin to be sin for us, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God." When anxiety whispers that you are not enough, when guilt tries to weigh you down, remember, you are already covered. Number 3, the shield of faith, your defense against attacks. Faith is not just a belief, it is a weapon. It is your shield, your defense against every fiery dart the enemy sends your way. Ephesians 6:16 tells us, "Take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one." The arrows may come in the form of doubt, fear, or discouragement. The enemy will try to make you question your worth, your calling, your strength. But faith is your protection. Faith declares, "God is my refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble." Faith reminds you, "Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me." Every time you choose faith over fear, your shield grows stronger. Number 4, the sword of the Spirit, the weapon that strikes back. Up until now, every piece of armor has been for defense, but God has also given you a weapon, His Word. For the Word of God is alive and active, sharper than any double-edged sword. Hebrews 4:12. The enemy speaks lies, you counter with Scripture. The enemy tries to weaken you, you declare God's promises. When Jesus was tempted in the wilderness, he didn't argue with Satan. He spoke the word of God. It is written. And with every truth he declared, he dismantled the enemy's attack. That same power is in your hands. Chapter 4. The power of prayer. Prayer is not just a ritual. It is a weapon. A divine connection between you and the Creator of the universe. A direct line to the throne of God. It is the key that unlocks power, the force that shifts atmospheres, the weapon that brings heaven's authority into your battle. For too long, the enemy has tried to convince you that prayer is weak, that it is just words whispered into the air, that it doesn't really change anything. But that is a lie. James 5:16 declares, "The prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective." When you pray, things move in the spirit realm. Chains break, strongholds crumble, the forces of darkness tremble. Every whispered prayer, every desperate cry, every declaration of faith carries weight in the kingdom of God. The Bible is filled with stories of warriors who won battles not with swords, but with prayer. Daniel was thrown into the lion's den, but his prayers shut the mouths of the beasts. Elijah called down fire from heaven and defeated the prophets of Baal with a single prayer. Paul and Silas were locked in prison, but when they prayed and worshiped, the earth shook. The prison doors flew open and their chains fell off. This is the power of prayer. When you feel weak, pray. When fear grips your heart, pray. When the battle feels impossible, pray. Philippians 4:6-7 reminds us, "Do not be anxious about anything, But in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Prayer is not a last resort. It is your first line of defense. You are not alone in this war. Heaven fights for you, and when you pray, you are not just speaking words. You are unleashing the full power of God against the enemy. So pray boldly. Pray without fear. Pray with authority. Because when you pray, battles are won. The enemy wanted you to stay in chains. He wanted you to live in fear, to believe the lies, to walk through life doubting your worth, your strength, and your purpose. But now you know the truth. You were never meant to live defeated. You were never meant to merely survive. You were created to overcome. Romans 8:37 declares, "In all these things, we are more than conquerors through him who loved us." That means you are not just fighting for victory. You are fighting from victory. The battle has already been won. The enemy has already been defeated. And you are standing in the power of that truth. You are equipped. You are protected. You are chosen. The war is real, but so is your authority. You have the armor of God, the sword of the Spirit, and the power of prayer on your side. There is nothing the enemy can do to stop what God has already set in motion in your life. But this isn't the end of your journey. It's only the beginning. If this message has spoken to your heart, if you feel the fire stirring within you, then take a bold step right now. Comment below. I stand in victory. Let this be your declaration, your battle cry, your sign to the enemy that you are no longer bound by fear. And before you go, like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications, not just as a casual click, but as an act of faith, a sign that you are stepping fully into your calling, ready to receive everything God is about to release in this season. There is more to come, more truth, more power, more breakthrough, and you don't want to miss it. So stand tall, speak boldly, walk in faith, because you are victorious, and the enemy knows it. Since the beginning of time, a silent war has raged, one between light and darkness, truth and deception. It is a war that many never perceive, yet it shapes the very fabric of our existence. And in the midst of this great battle, certain individuals have been marked, chosen, and set apart for a divine purpose. But here's the shocking reality: most of them never realize it. They go through life struggling, questioning, and searching for meaning in a world that prioritizes wealth, status, and material gain over the undeniable calling that has been imprinted on their lives since birth. But what if you are one of them? What if, since childhood, there have been signs subtle yet persistent revealing your divine purpose? What if everything you have been through, every struggle, every victory, and every moment of deep isolation was not random, but part of a greater plan? The world teaches us that success is measured by riches, luxury, and power. It tells us that without money, we are nothing. But God's ways are higher. His definition of abundance goes beyond material wealth. It is tied to destiny, to purpose, to the eternal impact you were created to make. Look around. People chase after money, believing it will bring happiness, yet they remain empty. They pursue luxury, convinced it will bring security, yet they live in fear of losing it all. But when God marks someone, when He places a calling over a person's life, no amount of wealth or human ambition can compare to walking in His divine will. If you have ever felt different, if you have sensed that you don't quite fit into the mold of this world, if challenges have come against you since childhood, pay attention. That is no coincidence. Many of the greatest men and women in the Bible, those who changed history, were set apart from birth. But they all had to recognize the signs, embrace their calling, and step into their purpose. And today, you are about to discover something that could change your life forever. These are the signs that God may have been revealing to you since childhood, signs that indicate you were chosen, set apart, and destined for something far greater than what this world offers. Long before you took your first breath, before the world even knew your name, God had already set you apart. Your life was not an accident, nor were the circumstances surrounding your birth random. You were chosen, marked for a divine purpose, and called to fulfill a mission that was written into the fabric of your being before you ever entered this world. In Jeremiah 1:5, God declares, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." This was not just a statement for Jeremiah. It is a spiritual truth that applies to every person whom God has called. Throughout history, we see this pattern repeated in the lives of those who were destined for greatness. Take Moses, for example. From the moment he was born, his life was surrounded by danger. Pharaoh had issued a decree that every Hebrew male child be put to death, yet God had a plan. Moses was placed in a basket and sent down the river, only to be miraculously rescued and raised in the very palace that sought to destroy him. Though he was surrounded by wealth, privilege, and power, something in him always longed for more, an unshakable pull toward his true identity. Deep inside, he knew that he was not just another prince of Egypt. He was called to be a deliverer. Why is it that those chosen by God often face intense opposition before they even step into their purpose? The answer is simple. The enemy recognizes destiny before the chosen one does. He will always attempt to destroy, distract, or derail those who have been set apart before they even realize who they truly are. This is why many who carry a divine calling experience hardship from an early age, rejection, abandonment, trials that seem too great for their years. Look at Jesus. Before he could even speak a word, King Herod sought to kill him, ordering the massacre of innocent children in an attempt to extinguish the light before it could shine. But what the enemy intended for destruction, God used for preparation. The world teaches that success is measured by wealth, luxury, and status. It convinces people that if they do not have money, they have nothing. But God's definition of abundance is far greater than material riches. It is tied to purpose, impact, and the eternal legacy you were created to leave behind. No amount of money, no earthly possession, no position of power can ever compare to walking in the divine will of God. This is why so many who appear to have everything still feel empty, because without purpose, nothing satisfies. So, if you have ever felt different, if you have sensed since childhood that you do not quite fit into the world's mold, pay close attention. That feeling was not a coincidence. Many of the greatest men and women in the Bible were set apart from birth, but they had to recognize the signs, embrace their calling, and step into the purpose for which they were created. And now, it is your time to do the same. From the earliest moments of your life, the signs were there, subtle yet undeniable clues that pointed to something greater, something beyond the ordinary. Childhood is a sacred time, a season of purity before the world imposes its expectations, before doubts creep in, and society teaches us to suppress what we instinctively know deep in our souls. It is also the time when God often begins to reveal glimpses of a person's divine calling. But here's the tragedy. Most people miss these signs. They dismiss them as coincidences, childhood imagination, or fleeting moments with no real significance. Yet nothing in God's plan is accidental. Every experience, every dream, every unexplainable pull toward something bigger was planted in your heart for a reason. Throughout Scripture, we see examples of great men and women of God who showed signs of their destiny from an early age. Take Joseph, for example. As a child, he had vivid dreams, visions of leadership, of purpose, of greatness. He saw himself in positions of authority, yet instead of encouragement, he was met with jealousy and rejection. His own brothers despised him, his father rebuked him. Yet those dreams were not random. They were divine revelations of the future God had prepared for him. Even when no one else could see it, the calling was evident in his life from the very beginning. Or consider Samuel, a young boy serving in the temple. One night he heard a voice calling his name. At first he thought it was the priest Eli, but after the third time, Eli perceived what was happening. It was God himself speaking to Samuel. Even Samuel didn't recognize the call of God at first. How many people go through life experiencing that same divine call, but never recognizing it for what it truly is? How many have felt an unshakable stirring inside them, but allowed the world to convince them it was nothing? Perhaps you too had moments in your childhood where you felt different from those around you. Maybe you were drawn to spiritual matters, while others were obsessed with material success. Perhaps you had an unusual level of wisdom, compassion, or leadership ability at a young age, qualities that set you apart. Maybe you saw injustice and felt a deep burden to change it, even when those around you remained indifferent. Or perhaps you had dreams, ideas, and gifts that others could not understand. If you have ever felt like an outsider, if you have ever sensed that your spirit was restless in a world that seemed too small for you, that was no accident. The chosen ones often feel out of place because this world is not their home. The world tells us to conform, to chase after money, status, and possessions. But those whom God has called cannot be satisfied with the temporary. If you look back, you will see it. The moments when you felt set apart, when your spirit longed for something more. The question is, will you continue to ignore the signs, or will you finally acknowledge that they were never coincidences? God has been calling you since childhood. The only question is, have you been listening? Throughout history, those chosen by God have often faced intense opposition. From the prophets of old to the apostles of Christ, their journey has been marked by trials, persecution, and relentless attacks. But why does this happen? Why are the chosen ones targeted so fiercely? The answer lies in the unseen battle between light and darkness, a spiritual war that rages beyond human perception. Those called by God to fulfill His purpose become immediate threats to the kingdom of darkness, and the enemy will stop at nothing to silence them. One of the earliest and most striking examples of this attack can be seen in the life of Moses. Chosen by God to lead Israel out of slavery, his life was threatened even before he could take his first steps. Pharaoh, fearing the rise of a deliverer, ordered the massacre of Hebrew baby boys. Yet despite the enemy's schemes, God preserved Moses, raising him within the very palace of the one who sought his destruction. The attack against Moses was not merely political, it was spiritual warfare aimed at preventing the fulfillment of God's promise. Centuries later, a similar attack unfolded when Jesus Christ, the ultimate chosen one, was born. King Herod, driven by fear and insecurity, sought to eliminate him by ordering the slaughter of innocent children in Bethlehem. This violent act mirrored Pharaoh's decree, revealing a pattern. Whenever God raises a chosen one to bring deliverance, the forces of darkness respond with fierce opposition. Yet, just as Moses was protected, Jesus was divinely shielded, escaping to Egypt until the time of his ministry had come. The enemy's attack could delay but never destroy God's plan. The same pattern continued with Jesus' disciples. Peter was imprisoned, Paul was beaten and stoned, and Stephen became the first martyr for boldly proclaiming the truth. Their persecution was not simply because of their words or actions, but because they carried divine purpose. The world, influenced by darkness, rejects those who walk in the light. Jesus himself warned, "If the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first." This rejection is evidence of a greater war at play, one where the enemy fights relentlessly to extinguish the light of the chosen. But here is the great truth. No attack against the chosen can ultimately succeed. Though trials may come, God's hand remains upon those he has called. Joseph was thrown into a pit and sold into slavery, yet he rose to power in Egypt, fulfilling God's purpose. Daniel was thrown into the lion's den but emerged unscathed. Paul, though beaten and shipwrecked, continued his mission until the very end. The attacks were fierce, but the purpose was greater. Even today, those who follow Christ face opposition. Whether through persecution, trials, or spiritual warfare, the enemy still seeks to silence and discourage. But the promise remains: God is faithful. He strengthens, protects, and uses every trial to bring about His divine plan. No attack can thwart His purpose, and no darkness can overcome His light. The chosen may be attacked, but they will never be defeated. Everything in your life has been leading to this moment. Your struggles were not random. The challenges you faced were not meaningless. They were shaping you, refining you, preparing you for something greater. Now you must decide. Will you continue ignoring the signs, or will you take this as the moment where everything shifts? Because when you finally embrace your divine calling, when you step into the purpose for which you were created, everything changes, and the world will never be the same. Thank you for watching and being part of this journey of faith. If this message has encouraged you, be sure to like the video and share it with others who need to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories and biblical insights that will inspire and strengthen your faith. Stay strong, stay faithful, and remember, God has chosen you for such a time as this. See you in the next video. If you are watching this video, understand that it is by divine design. You did not stumble upon this message by accident. God led you here because something powerful is about to unfold in your life. The delay is over, the barriers are breaking, and the promises that seemed distant are now within your reach. For too long, you have watched others rise while you remained in the shadows. You have endured the pain of waiting, the burden of expectations unfulfilled, and the weight of dreams deferred. You have prayed, you have sacrificed, you have fought battles in silence. But hear this clearly: your season of waiting is over. Every closed door, every missed opportunity, every setback was not a rejection but a preparation. God was refining you, strengthening you, and positioning you for something greater than you ever imagined. And now, the time has come. This is more than just a financial breakthrough. This is about divine timing, supernatural acceleration, and stepping into the fullness of your destiny. The destiny written for you before you even took your first breath. The enemy tried to hold you back. Circumstances tried to break you. But you endured. You remained faithful even when everything around you told you to quit. And because of that faithfulness, God is about to reward you in ways that will leave those around you speechless. But before we go any further, take a moment to activate this shift in your life. Like this message, comment 11 as a declaration of alignment with divine timing, and subscribe to ensure you never miss what God is about to do in your life. The universe, the divine, and every force working on your behalf are now moving at full speed. If you ever believed the struggle would last forever, if you ever questioned whether your prayers were heard, listen carefully. Your breakthrough is closer than you think. God has not forgotten you. He has seen the silent tears you cried when no one was watching. He has heard the prayers you whispered in the dark, the ones you weren't even sure reached heaven. He has felt the weight of your struggles, the exhaustion in your spirit, and the moments when you gave, even when you had nothing left. He witnessed the nights you pressed forward despite your weariness, the days when everything inside of you screamed to quit, yet you chose to hold on. Every battle you fought in silence, every moment of pain, and every season of waiting were not in vain. They were not meant to break you, but to prepare you. Your faith has been tested, your endurance refined, and your spirit strengthened. What once seemed like endless delays were actually moments of divine alignment, positioning you for a victory that will be undeniable. And now, the time has come for you to reap what you have sown. The disappointments, the setbacks, the hardships, they are no longer your story. You are stepping into a new reality. The old version of you, the one who doubted, the one who struggled, the one who felt unworthy, no longer exists. That person is gone. You are rising. You are stepping into a life where abundance is your portion, where lack is no longer your story, and where God's divine favor follows you in everything you do. This is your season. This is your moment. And nothing, no force in this world, can stop what God has set in motion. Walk forward in faith, with confidence and boldness, knowing that everything is aligning for your highest good. The very things you once prayed for are now manifesting. What once felt impossible is now within reach. Get ready, because this is just the beginning of something greater than you ever imagined. You have endured the hardships, the doubts, and the setbacks, but hear this: every challenge was a refining fire, molding you into the person you were always meant to be. Nothing you have gone through was wasted. Every tear, every moment of uncertainty, every painful waiting season, it all had a purpose. Your pain was not in vain. It was preparation. Your waiting was not wasted. It was alignment. And now, God is about to pour blessings into your life in ways you never expected. Doors that once seemed permanently closed will suddenly swing open. Opportunities will appear in places where you once saw only obstacles. The very people who doubted you, who ridiculed your faith, and who dismissed your potential will watch in amazement as you rise beyond their expectations. But this elevation is not about revenge. It is not about proving anyone wrong or seeking validation. This is about God's glory shining through you in a way that no one can ignore. When God blesses His chosen ones, He does it in a way that leaves no room for doubt, so that the world knows it was His hand that made it happen. And understand this: abundance is not just about wealth. It is about peace that cannot be shaken. It is about walking in your true purpose. It is about stepping boldly into the divine calling placed on your life before you even took your first breath. When you stop seeking approval from the world and start walking in full alignment with God's plan, that is when the floodgates of prosperity open. What you once chased will now chase you. What you once longed for will now be drawn to you effortlessly, because you are moving in divine alignment. So prepare yourself. The struggles that once defined your life are now part of your testimony. What once seemed impossible is now inevitable. Everything that has been working against you is now shifting in your favor. Everything that felt scattered is now aligning. Everything that appeared broken is now coming together in divine order. God is about to move in your life in a way that will leave you speechless. The season of waiting is over. The season of breakthroughs has begun. Get ready. You may have been overlooked, underestimated, and even betrayed, but understand this: every bit of it was necessary for this moment. The people who dismissed you, the ones who doubted your potential and ridiculed your faith, will soon witness firsthand how God's favor works. But their recognition is not what you need, and their validation was never required. The only approval that matters is God's, and He has already chosen you. Your journey is not just about you. Your breakthrough is meant to inspire, to uplift, and to remind others that faith, perseverance, and divine alignment always lead to victory. Your testimony will bring hope to those who are still in their waiting season, proving that God is always faithful. So stand tall, chosen one. Everything that was meant to break you has only made you stronger. The struggle, the moments of just barely getting by, the nights of questioning if you would ever see the light, it is over. God is opening doors you never even knew existed. He is placing you in rooms you never thought you would enter. The things you once longed for, prayed for, and fought for are now within your grasp. This is not just another season. This is your season of overflow, abundance, and divine transformation. The enemy tried to trap you in a cycle of lack, doubt, and fear, but those chains are breaking. You are stepping into generational wealth, divine opportunities, and a future far greater than anything you imagined. But with this blessing comes a responsibility to be wise, discerning, and steadfast. Not everyone will be happy for you. Not everyone will celebrate your breakthrough. Some will question, why you? Some will wonder, why now? But their opinions hold no power over what God has ordained. Do not waste your time explaining yourself to those who will never understand. Do not look back at the people who tried to keep you small. They will watch from the sidelines as you step into your abundance. And when they ask how it happened, when they wonder why you, the answer will be simple. Because God said so. What is happening in your life right now is not just a one-time blessing. This is a continuous flow of divine favor. This is not temporary, not fleeting, not here today and gone tomorrow. This is overflow. You have been tested in the fire, refined through trials, and shaped by seasons of waiting where it seemed like everything was working against you. But through it all, God was preparing you, strengthening you, and molding you into the person who could carry the weight of the blessing that is now being released. Now, because you remained steadfast, because you refused to give up when giving up seemed like the only option, you are stepping into a life of abundance. What once seemed impossible is now your reality. The doors that were once shut are now wide open. The opportunities you never thought would come are now falling into place effortlessly. Everything that was delayed is now being delivered. But remember this wealth, this success, this breakthrough. It is not just for you. It is for a higher purpose. God is blessing you so that you can be a blessing. He is entrusting you with influence, resources, and opportunities, not for selfish gain, but so that you can impact lives, uplift others, and be a living testimony of His faithfulness. This is bigger than material wealth. This is legacy. This is kingdom work. This is destiny unfolding. Walk boldly into this new season, but walk with wisdom. Remain humble, remain grateful, and never forget that every good thing in your life is a gift from above. This is your time. Step into it with confidence, knowing that God has prepared you for this exact moment. He is giving you influence, resources, and opportunities, not for selfish gain, but so that you can be a beacon of His power and love. What is happening in your life is not just about personal success. It is about God's glory being revealed through you. When people see your elevation, they will know, this was not luck, this was not human effort, this was the hand of God. Everything you have endured, every challenge you have overcome, has led you to this exact moment. Get ready, chosen one. This is it. This is your moment. This is your breakthrough. This is the shift you have been waiting for. Everything that once worked against you is now aligning in your favor. The right people, the right opportunities, the right resources. All of it is coming together in divine order. The delays are over. The obstacles that once seemed impossible to move are now clearing before your eyes. What was once a dream is now a reality. One day, you will look back at this very moment and realize it was the turning point. The moment everything changed. The moment when the waiting ended, the doors opened, and the breakthrough you had been praying for finally arrived. You will remember this as the day you stepped into your divine destiny. So do not hesitate. Do not shrink back. Do not let fear or doubt hold you captive. You have not come this far just to stop now. Everything you have endured, every battle you have fought, and every tear you have shed has led you to this very moment. This is not just about material wealth. It is about legacy, purpose, and generational blessings. What God is doing through you will not stop with you. Your obedience, your faith, and your endurance are paving the way for those who will come after you. The chains of struggle, lack, and limitation that have bound your family for generations are breaking with you. God is not just blessing you for your own sake. He is using you to create a ripple effect of abundance that will flow for generations. What was once locked is now open. The barriers that once stood in your way are being removed. The very opportunities you thought were out of reach are now appearing before you. What once seemed distant is now within your grasp. The dreams you carried in your heart, the prayers you whispered in faith, the visions that felt too big, they are now becoming your reality. This is your time. Not tomorrow, not someday, right now. This is the season where divine alignment meets divine acceleration. Everything is shifting in your favor, and nothing can stop what God has set in motion. Step into it. Claim it. Own it. Walk boldly, with your head held high, knowing that you were made for this moment. God has positioned you for victory, and nothing will ever be the same again. The struggles of the past are behind you, and the abundance of the future is ahead. This is your season of victory. Walk into it with confidence, for you are chosen, you are favored, and your time has come. As you step into this new season, remember who you are and who has called you. You are not here by accident. God has chosen you, prepared you, and positioned you for such a time as this. The struggles, the waiting, the disappointments, they were all part of the process, shaping you into the person who can now walk boldly in abundance, purpose, and divine favor. So move forward with confidence and faith. Do not let fear hold you back. Do not allow doubt to rob you of what is already yours. This is your season, your moment, your divine breakthrough. And as you rise, may your testimony be a light to others, a reminder that God's promises are always fulfilled in His perfect timing. If this message has resonated with you, take a moment to activate this shift in your life. Like this video, comment, "I receive it," and subscribe so you never miss another word of encouragement. Your journey is just beginning, and we are here to walk it with you. Thank you for being part of this community. Your best days are ahead. Get ready, because what God has set in motion, nothing can stop.